Greetings, my name is JC,
And I'm Ian.
and welcome to episode 10 of the Gamers Gaiden.
Woo!
Yay, we hit a milestone.
Yay!
So in this episode, we are going to jump right into it. First, what we're going to talk about is two different games, but first is going to be Silent Hill 2 and the movie. And the reason why we're going to do that is because Ian got me to play that game over the past couple weeks.
Because he
And
had never played it,
yeah, I've never played any of the Silent
as
Hill
as we
games.
learned a few episodes earlier.
Yes. And then Ian played through episode Life is Strange.
All of it.
All of it. And
As we learned earlier, I had never played that either.
yes. So we're going to be talking about that game. And yeah. So as I said, let's get right into it. So I played Silent Hill 2.
Yes, you did.
I've only ever played the first one, and I think it was only like maybe once or twice via renting it whenever it was like newish.
Okay.
So I definitely never beat the first game, or I've never completed any of the Silent Hill games until like this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's.
And I didn't find that the Silent Hill series kind of has a lot of overlap, like game to game. They all kind of have their own individual story. I mean, there is some carryover,
Yeah.
but you don't
The
have
three
to.
is a direct sequel of two, and I think that's the only one that's like a direct sequel of it, from what I could find out from Wikipedia after.
But I mean, as far as I know, I don't think you really don't have to have played any of the other games to
Mhm.
get the full experience of
Yeah.
a Silent Hill game.
Hmm.
So, 2 was one that I really enjoyed. It was one that I've finished.
Yeah.
So I was like,
And you were mentioning,
you should
since I
play
really
this.
like survival horror, and you
Yeah.
found out that I've never played two specifically, I should definitely play it. So yeah.
So, on that note, I think the easiest question off the hop was, what was the creepiest monster for you?
So I would say probably the mannequins with the out the head, and this is a torso and like the four legs.
Four
Basically.
legs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been way creepier if they like walked on walls on the roof and stuff like that. But yeah, that's probably the creepiest monster in the game, in my opinion. Especially since I find mannequins kind of creepy to begin with.
Yeah.
In the correct like setting, like I don't think mannequins are creepy in a store or something like that. But yeah, in the correct like
A store after hours, though.
yes. But
Somebody
yeah.
never watched Today's Special as a child. Or maybe a lot of Today's Special?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough,
No.
none.
So that would be my creepiest monster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The mannequins are super freaky.
Hmm.
From the first time you see them, I think the first reveal is when you get the flashlight.
Yeah, in the apartment.
Yeah.
You get the flashlight like
And it's
before
it's
it.
on the dress form,
Hmm.
and you pick up the flashlight, and immediately it shines to the opposite side, and the radio goes off, and
Yeah.
there's these legs hanging off of a place legs shouldn't be.
I thought for context, I played this on the PlayStation 2 with the original game. I did upscale it using a FrameMeister, so it did look fairly decent the way that was supposed to. I did not play the HD remake.
No.
So if
You had
people
both
are-
options.
Yeah, I
but-
had both options. I chose the HD remake because I heard from a coworker that they lost the source code and they had to rebuild a bunch of it. So I just like, okay, well, I'll just play this version because it sounds like a more complete experience. Maybe not as good graphics, but that's the version I chose. But yeah, the mannequins definitely really, really creepy.
And from that, what was your favorite thing to kill them with? So what would be your favorite weapon?
So uh first off, with the game, I didn't get the pistol until I had basically completed the apartment.
Oh.
And the reason why was, so I was beating these things up with the club, because I also didn't find the pipe. And so the interesting thing about the gun was that I saw the gun, but at the angle that the camera was at, it just looked like a rectangle. I didn't get that it was a gun. I was like, oh, there's something in here, or I can't get it, because you have to like go at the part where you hold the handle of the shopping cart in order to get the gun. You can't get it from the side,
Yeah.
and I couldn't get I thought I was beside it, but I guess I wasn't, because it wouldn't like change the camera angle. That angle is very specific. So I did the whole entire area. So I killed most of those in the game that I did kill with 5 bat hits and 1 kick to the head. Because yeah, it's and then I finally got the gun, and I basically used the gun for most of the monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would that would be my answer for that. It would just be like just the gun because the game gave you tons of ammo. So.
It did. It was really generous.
Hmm.
Um, any any kind of moments in the game that stood out for you? Now, I'm only saying this because I remember. Well, I've got one specific that really jumped out at me.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, like any kind of reveals or sort of like just scenes that sort of like stand out to you that you're like, oh man, that was really cool, or that was really weird, or that was dumb.
Um, I would say the dumbest thing was, which we'll probably should talk about later, is something that did with Eddie. But I think
Okay.
so. But I'll get to that later. But the dumbest creature in the game, I would say, is Doorman. I thought that was really, really fucking stupid. It wasn't scary at all to me. I was just like, oh, it's a guy who's stuck in a door. I don't understand why that's supposed to be scary. Like maybe if he was like in one of those cage things or something like that, then
Okay.
that would be like more
Like the ones
terrifying
that
to me.
drop down from the ceiling in
Yeah, like if it
the
was one of those
hospital.
like walking around, then that would have been more terrifying to me. But just like a guy who was like part of a door that like I got it, but I was just like, okay, sure, you guys are smoking something and this is what you ended up making. Like, yeah, that was probably the dumbest character for me. What stood out to me the most was definitely the hospital. That was my favorite portion of the entire game.
Well, that leads into my other question about what
Yeah.
your favorite location might have been.
Okay.
Because really, it's broken up into
Like five
5 different
locations, six
locations. Yeah.
different locations. Um, Another dumb moment was where you had to do the rowboating near the end. That
Yes.
was really dumb. And the reason why that was dumb was because, because it was tank controls, and I'm fairly good with tank controls. I've played enough games with them and still do. I used the digital pad, not the actual analog stick, which makes tank controls a lot easier.
Yeah.
And with the boat, you just held left or right until you saw a light, and you just held up. Like I was like, why am I doing this? You literally like maybe there's a way to like do a faster method to do speed runs and stuff like that because I could see people speed running this game. But yeah, that was probably another pretty dumb moment in the game.
Because for me, I mean, the first kind of reveal of Pyramid Head always stands out to me. Walking
Yeah,
into the apartment and seeing him just like going to town on a couple of those leg things,
yeah,
like sexually, not like aggressive, but also very
yeah.
sexual.
Yeah, because he did that in the apartments too, where there's one room that
That's
you go
the
into, and then I thought I was like,
and then
oh,
you
oh,
duck into
okay,
you like duck into a closet,
yeah, it's like
but
what?
leave your flashlight on.
Yeah, that was definitely weird.
Like,
But what was really interesting is whenever you're running around the fog in the town and you have your flashlight, like I did it with flashlight off,
yeah,
and like none of the monsters would notice you unless you walked within like 5 feet of them.
yeah,
So it's just like, oh, he's over here, walk like run that way and stuff like that. But to your pyramid comment, I just found Pyramid Head frustrating, and there's a specific reason why. So I inadvertently found out that you don't have to deal damage to him. So I had to fight him like probably around 6 times. The first time I fought him, I used up most of my ammo with the pistol, and then the siren went off and he started to walk away, and I tried to like run past him, but he managed to like hit me with the tip of his with his sword. And then I did it again, and I noticed I probably used about half as much ammo, and then he did the exact same thing. I was like, well, why did that start happening? I'm like, oh, it's timed. So
yeah.
then I was just like, okay, and then literally I would just like go back and forth between the three corners of the room to try and avoid him. And then like the third time I probably used maybe like 10 bullets, and like he walked away. I'm like, okay, well I probably don't even have to do any damage to him. So I literally it took a couple tries because like I'd always get stuck by the door where you come in, right where the stairs are, and there's not much of a room to like run past them.
Yeah, it's fairly
So I
narrow.
tried to get good at the other two corners, and I would try and time it because it's only like a couple minutes. It felt like 5 or 10 minutes, but apparently it's only a couple minutes. And I would try and time it correctly, so I'd always be in this corner up, and like there's the door here, and then there's this corner. You can go down that corner,
Yeah,
so that he would just walk past me, and then whenever he starts to swipe, I could easily just run back down. And once I finally did that successfully after like the fifth or the sixth time, he just walked down, and I literally didn't use a bullet on him. And I was like, oh. So then whenever I figured out, whenever you didn't have to basically like Pyramid Head was just really something that could kill you in one hit. I didn't find Pyramid Head that like tensely scary. Like he was definitely like a scary villain and a very well designed villain and a cool villain. I totally got that. Like I really like the the antagonist, but
Like
the
two of the first time, like not the very because you see him at the end of the hallway,
yeah.
beyond the grate. The very first time you see him,
Hmm.
just like looming there.
Yeah.
But like the other two times that you see him, he's literally like he's aggressively having sex with something.
Yeah, it was definitely
Like
really weird, but it
it's
like
hilarious.
it is, but there is quite a bit of like eroticism in certain genres of horror where like
Now, did you pick up on a lot of the like other, I guess, like sexual overtones or undertones?
well
I feel
the
like they're
developer
very hot. Like they really push them.
yeah, the developers definitely like legs
Yeah,
and there's a creature with
yeah,
four legs. There's the nurses with short skirts
and heels,
and heels. I
and
mean,
yeah.
yeah, so it like and so those were definitely like eroticized, I guess, but I don't know. I played the game and played through it. It didn't really like bother me or anything. It was just like oh okay. But like whenever he's like going to town at the one leg thingy like in the apartment building in the kitchen, I was just like okay. Like
I still love that James's initial reaction is just I'm gonna duck in this closet and continue to
yeah,
watch.
his
Like not
reaction's
like I'm
pretty
gonna leave the
yeah,
apartment.
like oh, like that weird like awkward moment where you just like walk in on somebody and just like you close the door silently. Like no,
He's like
he's
I'm
like
just gonna
oh, I'm gonna
go
hang
into
in
a
a closet and
closet
watch
and
you.
keep watching.
Yeah, James
Yeah.
is a little bit of a creeper,
Yeah,
but
he's a weird dude.
mhm.
Speaking of weird dudes, um what did you think of Eddie?
So I did not like Eddie at all. The first scene that you see him in, he's just constantly puking in the toilet,
It like
and
legit grossed me out. Like I can
yeah,
handle a lot of things, but like that constant like like oh
yeah,
man, and it keeps going.
I felt it was a little overdone, really.
I'm impressed with the dude who recorded the audio for that
Yeah.
cuz he really gave it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what was your overall impression?
Of Eddie?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought he was an idiot. Not as much as an
Same.
idiot as James, because James is probably the worst protagonist I've seen in a horror
Yeah,
game.
he's not that great.
But I think he was designed that way because, from what I understand from the developer notes, he's supposed to be like the everybody person. Like he's just a normal person. But anyway,
And people can be idiots.
yeah. And so Eddie, um, I don't know, like he was okay of a character and he seemed to have his like his own agenda and he just wanted to survive. And I get that there's always that character trope in these types of movies.
Yeah.
That's probably where they got it from. But the one thing that annoyed me the most about him was the final scene with him where like you're fighting him. There's two phases to it. And if they would have mixed it just into the second phase, this would have been fixed and a lot better to me. You basically stand there and then like I had the shotgun loaded
Hmm.
and just go like bang into his chest with the shotgun, and he's like, "Oh, I got shot with a shotgun," and then he literally shoots you in the head, and you're just like, "Dink, boom, dink, boom," and you just do that over and over again. And I'm just like, "What?" And there's no way to move around or anything, so there's no point to you trying to like duck and weave and like not get shot because if you move around, you're just gonna get shot, right?
Yeah.
And so your best bet is just to use the most powerful weapon that you have, and I didn't want to use the rifle against him because I'm not wasting rifle bullets against him.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just shot him like I don't know 15 times or something, and he ran into the meat cellar, and then that was interesting because he's actually hiding behind stuff and trying to shoot me and stuff. I'm like, why wasn't the whole thing this?
Yeah.
Like that would have been a lot better. He's actually like hiding. I get it's PlayStation 2, but like there were bosses like that in some games where they would hide behind things and do like attack patterns. But no, it's
Yeah,
just
like
like
you didn't really have
really
cover
boom,
mechanics
boom,
at that
boom,
point,
boom.
but
No, but like
it's
he
still
was
like you
legit
could have.
hiding behind. Like you
Yeah.
could hit the meat instead of him. But then you would run behind him and then like line him up and then just shoot him and he wouldn't move away. Like sure, but that one scene where you're just standing in the doorway before he runs into the meat place and then he begs for his life and I'm just like oh my god, like this is so unrealistic. Like I get having to shoot the monsters with a pistol like 3 times and you kick them in the head because basically what you had to do with most of the normal monsters.
Yeah.
And the nurses took a little bit. I think it was like 4 or 5 shots or something like that. But you had to like always demobilize them by like kicking them in the head or like the torso if they were the four-legged things. But like he's a human, he can't take 15 shots, right? Like I don't know. I didn't feel like it was tense at all, like I would have in like a Resident Evil fight or something like that.
Hmm.
Mainly because I had ammo and it wasn't hard to find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my impressions of Eddie. I the scene where you're in the bowling alley I thought was kind of interesting because he was like stuffing his face full of pizza and stuff like that. Side note, I thought it was funny that they added the bowling alley in the movie because
Yes.
there's a scene in the movie where they got specifically that scene. And but yeah, and Eddie's just like he doesn't care about like the kid who's like wandering around and stuff like that, and it's just like, oh, like we gotta get out of here, and I'm like, why is he here? And did they ever explain why he was actually in Silent Hill? Because like from my understanding, Silent Hill is a town that summons people and then tries to kill them with demons at like a very high level, like without like the lore and explanation of why. That's kind of like what's going on,
Yeah.
and like Maria's there for a reason. You're there for a
What did
reason.
you think of Maria?
Uh, Maria was kind of like a bimbo, and I found that kind of annoying because like all like at the time, all of the females in Resident Evil series are pretty powerful women.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
and she was absolutely she was more useless than Ashley in Resident Evil 4. Help me, Leon! Help! Help! Hide in this fucking like chest. Like, oh no! Like, yeah, I don't know. She just basically. I was surprised that she was an ending. I didn't get that ending. We'll get that in a second, I'm assuming. But I
Yeah,
looked
we'll
up
get
the
there.
endings later, and like apparently she's an ending, and I was like, oh, she's an ending. Okay, that would have disappointed me.
I hated her like just massive mood swings.
Yeah,
Like she
she
would be like all like, "Oh, I'm so like defenseless. You have to save me." Well,
and then
fuck you. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's
I don't
just
need your help. Well, what is it?
yeah.
Like,
It just go it
I
they
don't care
she
what
hits
it
both
is.
ends of the spectrum
Yeah,
in like a second
yeah.
or like
The
a sentence and
the
you're like,
writing of
"What's happening?"
the writing of that character wasn't the greatest for
No,
sure.
she was not endearing whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. Um I don't know, any kind of major highlights for you? Anything that sort of like
So there was the different areas where you saw Pyramid Head, like in the labyrinth. That was probably the most tense moment because I'm like, oh shit, like he's gonna chase me now,
yeah.
kind of like Mr. X or something like that, like the Tyrant from Resident Evil 2 or Nemesis or something. He didn't. He was only in like 2 areas, so he didn't actually like follow you or anything. But I thought that was kind of cool. They could have done a little bit more with that. And I'm trying to compare this game to like games that came out at the time, just so people are aware.
Yeah.
And the uh, whenever I finally got to the apartments, that's whenever the game kind of like really started to grab my attention. Before that, it didn't grab my attention at all. Actually,
So you would say kind of the beginning would be like a low point for you.
it would be the lowest point. Yeah, yeah. I give the lowest points Eddie and yourself shooting back and forth between each other. But
That's the
that
big like ugh.
Yeah, that was the big like, oh my god, why like why? But the beginning was probably the low point. It set up the atmosphere. It has very good sound design and all that stuff. Like I
Yeah.
like more points about this game than I dislike about this game, obviously. But the atmosphere was set up very well. They introduced you to like that there are creatures and stuff like that because you find the 2x4 and then something attacks you and it's like,
Yep.
oh, there's monsters, which I was expecting anyway, but it
Yeah.
introduces you to them. But because it was very like railroady without any purpose, it didn't really grab my attention because I was just like, is the whole game going to be like this? And I was like, if there's no areas like in Resident Evil where like you can explore a bunch of connected rooms and stuff like that, and like there's like some overlap and whatnot, this is probably going to be a very poorly designed game. But like once you got like, because even the town was designed that way. It's like, oh, there's a block over here and a block over there, and you can't pass this because we put up a little like don't pass zone and stuff like that, and then oh, there's a huge hole,
Yeah, there's a massive hole.
which I'm guessing is explained in the first game. Because they don't really explain the huge hole in the first game. They did in the movie, but they didn't explain it in the first, like the second game. I guess they kind of did, but they didn't really
I
go
don't,
into it that much.
I don't really remember if they did in the first one. What was funny was when we started talking about this, it'd
Mm-hmm.
been so long since I had played a Silent Hill game
Yeah.
that I was like, oh man, I can't wait until you get to the school. That's my favorite part in that game.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you finish it and you're like, yeah, there's no school. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, man, there's for
Yeah.
sure a school.
You told me there was the best parts of the game was the school and the hospital. And I
That's
told you,
right.
I'm like, there was a hospital and that was the best part of the game, but there was no school. I'm like, are you talking about the first game?
Though I gotta say, like, me going through it this time,
Mm-hmm.
the prison was for sure the creepiest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just totally like freaked me right out because it
Yeah.
was way more the like other world that's all like
Right.
chain link fences and
Yeah.
rusty metal,
Yeah. See, I think it.
and then you've got you have someone looming above you
Mhm.
who's stomping around
Yeah.
when you're walking the cell block,
Mhm.
and then that like low like ritual,
Mhm.
like someone's saying that, and it's like super low and kind of growly. It's pretty metal,
Yeah.
but it's creepy.
Yeah. I think so. The atmosphere and the level design and color choice of the game is definitely very aesthetically pleasing and creepy.
I wouldn't say it's pleasing. It's creepy.
Well, I mean, like it's what I would expect. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
like
what you want.
yeah, it's what you, it's in context of like this is what you're looking for.
Yeah,
And so I would say that, but because there was no tension in the game at all, um, and if you thought there was tension, I would argue you're probably just bad at the game. Like, so look,
I'm not good at games.
well, but like, um, in Resident Evil, like you don't necessarily have to be like great at the game, and
That's
a lot of
true.
the zombies are fairly easy. But at least there's like that tension there that like they're going to hit you and they're going to grab onto you, and you gotta press buttons to get them off of you, or you're out of ammo, so you really want to avoid them. Like unless you've played the game like 5 or 6 times, like, um,
See, for me, all of the Resident Evil games, I know we're getting into something totally different, but all of the
but it's a
Resident
good
Evil games
comparison.
hit a point. So like you're playing like the first, even say the first half of the game,
Yes.
you're like, oh, this is tense, this is creepy,
Hmm.
and then there's like a tipping point where you're just like, oh, this is like full on camp. Like
Right, but you
you
still
you
run out
move
of
right
ammo.
into that. You move into the like, you were almost a Jill sandwich, and I'm like, all right, I'm not taking this game seriously anymore.
Okay.
And you
Yes.
can't. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna fight a giant shark, or, well, okay, you don't fight a giant shark, but there's a
Mhm.
giant shark. You fight a giant plant creature though.
Yeah, but that is a monster that is something that's semi realistic.
I guess so. It wasn't scary, like, but that was past the halfway point, and I was not scared at
Hmm.
all. Well, like once you cross that threshold in a Resident Evil game, for me,
Hmm.
it is not scary
But you
anymore.
still run out of ammo. You still have to conserve it. You can run past a lot of monsters, but
It's
like,
true.
but this is in perspective. At the end of the game, I had 80 to 85 rifle shots. I had 120 to 130 shotgun shots, and I had 110-ish different pistol shots.
Mm.
I barely
I mean,
used a gun in the
they
game.
tell you early on, like you find a dude's notes scattered across the street,
Right.
and like two of them are just like run away. So
Sure.
I mean, they do encourage you to just run away from the monsters.
They do, but why give you that much ammo?
I
If
guess
they
that's
gave
true.
me, okay, granted, I went all over the place and actually found a bunch of this ammo.
Hmm.
And if I would have beelined a lot of this, I probably wouldn't have found as many. But like even so, like the only part that I used ammo was at the end of the game and against Eddie. That was the most ammo I used in the entire game.
Well, not to like push past it, but kind of on what you just said. What
Hmm.
ending did you end up getting? We're gonna get into spoilers. I
Yeah,
mean,
we warned you at the beginning.
yeah,
So,
but
the water ending.
okay.
Yeah. So I got the water ending. Which made
That's like
sense to me.
that's like the unofficial canon ending.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah.
So apparently there was a novel or something,
There,
and
that's the
one of
ending
the
in the
developers.
novelization. A couple of the developers say
Hmm.
that's their canon ending.
Right,
There's even suggestions in the in the game that that's the true ending.
right.
Like when you come out of
It makes sense
the
because
hotel room after talking to Mary, the
yeah.
whole hallway's waterlogged.
Hmm.
There's even, I think one of the covers of the game has you carrying Maria,
Right.
which the only way you would see that is if you get the water ending.
But you don't actually see it. The water ending is just like a black screen and a sound of you driving off of a cliff
Yes,
hitting
but
water, and then it shows like aqua water with lights, headlights. So you don't actually see you carrying her out unless like that video glitched out on me. But
still there's a lot of stuff that suggests that that
yeah,
is the true ending, but I guess
yeah.
officially there is no true ending.
Well, no, it's kind of like we'll get into a bit like Life is Strange. There's no official.
It
Um,
does for me.
it does for me, but and everybody else. But yeah, so I got the water ending. I looked up what the differences were, and there's like 4 real endings and 2 joke endings, which I thought was kind of comical, because like these types of games have that, like Tofu and Resident Evil 2, right?
Yeah.
And the
Now
Marie,
the UFO ending is only available.
like you have
That's
to
the
have
one in the
beaten,
original.
right?
The dog ending is in the
Hmm.
re-release.
Okay, but I read that you have to have at least beaten the game once to get some of the endings, because you can
Yes.
get 3 of the core endings. You have to get uh there's something specific you have to do in order to get some of the other endings, and you can't have done that unless you've beaten it once or something. But yeah, so yeah.
Final thoughts on Silent Hill.
I
Actually, hold on before we get into final thoughts.
Okay.
Uh, the film.
We'll talk about that after. We'll two separate.
Okay.
We'll
All right.
separate
We'll
it.
separate them. We'll separate them.
So
Final
final
thoughts on the game.
on the game. I would definitely play it if you like survival horror. I really enjoyed the playthrough. The beginning's a little slow. Once you hit the apartment, then the game really opens up, and it's neat how the story.
It opens up by closing you in.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like that.
It um what was I saying? So the story is next to non-existent, like it is in Resident Evil, and I found that interesting because it's really just the background noise, and it's really just like your objective in getting there.
Yeah.
Um, I did not like the battle with Eddie, and I thought the end of the game actually kind of comical, which I kind of want to bring up. So the room with the 2 pyramid heads is, I'm like, oh shit, like things are gonna get serious. I'm glad I have all this ammo. So there's a square room. They jump down and then they attack you. Allegedly, not sure how true this is, but people, it sounds like on the internet, seem to think or have reason to believe this is probably true. I'm guessing the damage you've done to Pyramid Head throughout the game, he'll have done like at the end. So it's easier to kill if you did damage to him during the game.
See, I
But
remember when I played through it my first time,
yeah,
going
yeah.
into that room and being like, "Shit, like I'm
Hmm.
so boned." And then they came down and they killed themselves right
Pretty
away.
much right away. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, all
So
right."
with me, I just ran like to one corner. I used the rifle for this, like all 80-ish rounds, and then a few rounds of the shotgun. Ran to one corner, hit L and R1 to 180-degree turnaround, fire 4 times, press start, reload the gun through the menu because it's a lot easier and faster to do it that way.
Yeah.
Run in between them because the way that Pyramid Head works in this game anyway is that he has a frame of stop animation and then he attacks you with a sword, so you know exactly whenever he's going to attack you. And if you're not stopping to run, he actually can't hit you. Well, he can if he swipes like this in the right angle, but if he
Yes.
does this attack, then he usually doesn't hit you. So I just ran in between them to the other corner, and then basically they walked this way, that way, this way, that way, and the corners are here, mind you.
Yeah.
And they never left the middle. I shot them with the 80 rifle rounds, and then I shot them a few times with the shotgun, and then they impaled themselves, and I thought it was kind of a joke. Yeah, that so if you can get past that, and you really like games with atmosphere, really good sound, cool monsters, and really just creepy atmosphere, because I think this is this game's strongest point,
Yeah.
then I would definitely go back and play it. I can't say whether or not you should play the HD version or the old version, but if you don't have a proper upscaler and stuff, you probably should just play the HD version.
It's probably a little bit more accessible. I feel like
Yeah,
the standard version's probably like $50 or
yeah,
so, and you can probably pick up the HD one for like
yeah.
20.
What I would like to see is this game being given the same treatment as Resident Evil 2 and redone through the ground up. And I think the game would be a lot better.
I mean, it's kind of
Um,
deserving. It really was
mhm.
one of Resident Evil's only, I guess, competitors.
Yeah, well, there's like Clock Tower and some other like
I mean, Clock Tower is considerably less well known.
yes, not very many people know it, but
That's creepy.
mhm. Yeah, intense because he's
Even the
coming after you with
PS1
the
version,
version.
very creepy.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely play it again, and I would recommend that people play it, especially if they like the genre. If you don't like the genre, you probably can't get past some of the game's faults.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my final thoughts.
So then moving into the next part, because I did say that Silent Hill was one of my favorite film adaptations, JC was like, well, I finished the game. Let me borrow the damn movie.
Yeah.
What did you think about the movie?
Um,
As far as a film adaptation of a video game.
yeah. So even as a horror film, I think it was fine.
Yeah?
Yeah. I found that the most interesting part about the film was actually the special features. That's a very me thing to do. But
It's an incredibly JC thing to do.
yeah.
Did you watch all the special features? No. Right?
There's like an hour and a half of them.
Yeah, I
They're
could
like
be
as long as a movie.
I could be playing another video game in that time. I could watch another movie.
You could have, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. The movie has a nice blend of practical effects and special effects,
Yes, it does.
and it's neat because yes, the special effects have dated, but because of the blend of the practical effects as well, the movie doesn't actually look that bad.
No, practical effects are amazing. Like
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed that a lot more current films don't use them as much.
yeah,
Because
especially with
everybody
like.
knows that practical effects age well.
Mhm. And so I really appreciated that. Another really cool thing that I had found out, and I sort of noticed during the actual film, was that you saw the actors' faces in a lot of the scenes and stuff like that, where normally you probably wouldn't, like a woman being like held up by her neck and stuff like that, and it was actually the actors who did that. I learned by watching the special features that they actually all got like some training basically so that they could do a lot of their own stunts. Because there's the one they call them Red Pyramid instead of Pyramid Head, which I find
Pyramid
funny.
Head.
But whenever Pyramid Head like slices into the door and then moves his sword around and stuff like that, that was actually the actresses like going like away from the blade, and if they messed up, they would have gotten dinged by like this blade thing. It wasn't very heavy, but like it would have hurt.
Yeah, it was a big
And
foam.
yeah, and the actress who played the main actress in the film, she actually like there's a scene in the uh in the church where there's the whole like to hell, and then there's the
Yes.
rafters. She actually did that. She was held up by a guide wire, and she learned and like practiced a bunch of times to jump to the different locations and stuff like that, and she actually did that. I thought that was really really cool.
That is
They
really cool.
and the woman from The Walking Dead, the police woman in the movie, she did the whole entire choreographed fight instead of a stunt double, and like they actually like she actually got hit and stuff like that, and it was more real because of that, and I thought it was really really neat. And I appreciated the fact that they actually took the time to learn those things, and yeah. Other neat thing, we live in southwestern Ontario. It was filmed in Brantford and Hamilton and some outskirts of Toronto,
I mean,
so semi-locally.
interesting fact, they didn't have to change Brantford at all
Not
to
much at
make
the
it look
time.
like Silent Hill.
Yeah, so I guess they were re-renovating the entire street or something like that, and they
Yeah.
let them go to town to it. So they actually like sprayed the entire like place, and then like redid the surfaces of some of the buildings and stuff like that because the location artist actually was like, "Oh, I know a town," and then they did
Brantford.
Brantford. It's just like, "Oh, okay, cool." So yeah, they filmed it there, and because we have pretty big filming like areas and stuff like that in southwestern Ontario for
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely. We didn't know about the first one ahead of time, but when
mhm,
they did the second one, They filmed a lot of it in Cambridge,
Oh, okay, cool.
and my wife and I actually like drove to downtown
Hmm.
the one day and like or one evening, and we ran into the security guard
Yeah,
there, and he was just like, "Hey, don't touch anything, and you can wander around." And we're like, "Cool."
that's really cool.
So he kind of like he wandered around with us and like
Yeah,
pointed some stuff out, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean like the second movie wasn't very good.
Hmm.
I would skip the second movie.
I might watch it
Nope,
just to find out one thing, but I'll get to
nope.
that in a second. So the other things I liked about the film was the like for a horror film, it actually got a decent budget. Apparently the budget was 50 million
That's
and
not bad. That's not
from
bad for a video game movie.
yeah, and so the director was like pretty pleased that he actually managed to get a lot of budget for this film comparatively. They were able to do like all of these like one-to-one scale like soundstage areas and like redux of a bunch of like locations and stuff like that to actually like get the scenes because they had the past, the present, and then the hell world.
Yeah,
And then so like they apparently filmed like the school in this one school, but they actually like had like this puzzle maze figured out to like the doors wouldn't actually connect to each other in real life, but they made it so that like they could film at this side of the school and then like all the way on the other side of the school because it would look like it would connect and stuff like that.
yeah.
And they had like a map to do all that stuff, and what they did was like they painted like a layer of lard basically and then paint over top of it so that they get like that flaking effect of the special effect and stuff like that. That's a practical effect. I like
That's real cool.
yeah, so basically like heat it up and burn it with flake away, so that it would look like it was actually like burnt and stuff like that. And I thought that was really really neat because they had a bunch of other things. And my other favorite part about the film was they like I was watching the film. I'm like, these monsters are dancers, aren't they? And then and it was very obvious once there was the scene with the nurses.
Oh yeah.
But like I was like even with the movement of like the baby monster and Pyramid Head, I'm like, they're dancers, aren't they? Just by the way they're moving, I can kind of tell. And it turns out that the Pyramid Head guy is the head choreographer of the dancers, and they are all dancers. Like the baby monster is a this like shorter Asian woman, and then all the um nurses were basically it was just a choreographed dance scene with fights and stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of like really interesting because like if you look at like the costume and stuff like that, like he looks like some like semi like buff dude who's like
He's
lugging
pretty
around this pyramid.
jacked.
Yeah. And he's
But I
like
mean, a
the
lot of
most
dancers are, right?
yeah, and like he's like very like flamboyant like dancer who's like into his craft and stuff like that. And I thought that was really really cool that like I caught on to that. I was just like that kind of like movement looks a little too fluent to like
Yeah.
be yeah, so I thought that was really really cool. And like a lot of the monsters like the armless guy, he was like all practical effects and stuff like that. So I think I enjoyed the effects of the film and stuff like that the most out of it. But my favorite part about the entire film was the little girl. That girl who played the like she played three characters. She played like the demon possessed child, the the innocent girl, and then like just like the old one like from the past and stuff like that. And she was like they even commented about this in like the features. Like she basically flipped on a switch. Like she looks genuinely terrifyingly evil whenever she actually had like the makeup on and was like the evil child. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, that's scary. Like she did as good of a job as people give a lot of praise to Kristen Dunst, Claudia, in Interview with a Vampire for playing like as a child actress who actually like kind of knew what she was doing or got that effect across.
Yeah, playing
Yeah, yeah,
like
because
fairly
getting
old lady.
yeah, because playing like a to get a child actor to be able to do that is not easy. And I was just like, that's actually pretty spot on and terrifying. I that was my favorite character in the film.
I
But
never
yeah,
thought about that.
yeah. But I was disappointed about one thing in it, and it has to do with Boromir not dying.
Yeah, I know. It's like one of the only movies that he doesn't die in.
Yeah, so I want to see the second one to see if he dies in that one. That's the only reason why. But yeah, I would
See if
give
they fix the problem.
yeah, I would give Silent Hill Boromir doesn't die at a 10. Like that's my
Okay.
yeah, I would definitely watch it. It's definitely worth your time. It was fun. It was a fun watch.
I mean, I would have said Ned Stark, but that's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Still nerds, just different nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's I guess that wraps up our Silent Hill section.
Yeah, so let us know what your thoughts on Silent Hill 2 are, or the movie, and what your favorite part of them are in the
Yeah.
comments down below. I'd be interested to hear. Yeah, maybe you really liked the beginning of the second game and it was actually really well designed. Let me know why. Okay, so game 2. You've never played basically my favorite game.
All right.
and
Yes, I played it.
and you played it.
I did.
What were your first reactions of the
I
game?
did. Um, I mean, out of the gate, and I will say, and I did say this to you because I had actually played the first probably hour of it
Right. In the past,
a
like
year
whenever it was
ago,
right.
maybe a year and a half, something like that. And it didn't grab me.
No.
You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I played through the opening sequence. I went through the whole bathroom thing, however many times you have to go through it,
Yeah.
and I talked to the principal, and I went outside,
Mm-hmm.
and I did all the stuff outside. And by the time I went to the section to go to the dorm,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's been an hour. I've got to go do something else.
Right.
And I saved it. I left it. I never went back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. I've never gone back because I was playing it on Steam,
Mm-hmm.
and I played this on the PS4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, when I had to play it,
Yeah.
and I made it past that section,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept going, I mean, I will still say that the first chapter is for sure the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
It felt the longest to me
Okay.
because it took some time to get
To get your
to get
bearings.
going
Yeah.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
But once it started rolling,
Mm-hmm.
um, pretty much at the end of the first chapter,
Right.
because they do kind of end on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. They.
I mean,
They do that purposely
they
on
tend
every
to
episode.
end every chapter on a cliffhanger,
Yeah.
like by the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it had its hooks in. I was in.
Yeah. So my first reaction of this game, I knew about this game whenever it first came out, and I wanted to play it really badly. But I found out that I was following it, and I found out that the game was going to be episodic. So I actually waited until the last episode came out to actually play the game.
That
So
makes
I
sense.
played it within 2 weeks of the last episode becoming released, and I played it like during like that week and a half, basically on and off, to play through all 5 of the episodes. And yeah, that was kind of my first initial reaction, like, oh, I'm probably going to enjoy this because I've gone over in the podcast, I like these types of games, story
Yep.
driven games, but I'm gonna want to not have to wait, and that's one of the most annoying parts about Life is Strange 2 for me right now, because it's like, oh, the episode got delayed, like it's
Yeah.
I have to wait, and I'm not gonna get the last episode until December. Like they finally released the schedule, but like still enjoying it immensely. But that was my initial reaction of it. Is like, no, okay, I get it. I want to play it. I'm gonna wait. And the first thing that stood out to me was the sound, and the sound design of it, which is why I chose it as sound. And I wanted to ask you about the sound. Do you think it's a good candidate for best sound in a video game?
I mean, I loved I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
the ambient music.
Right.
Um, it was just enough.
Mm-hmm.
But the soundtrack I really dug.
Mm-hmm.
It had a lot of artists I really enjoy. Something you might not know,
Mm-hmm.
but my my wife and I's first dance
Oh,
at our
okay.
wedding was actually a Bright Eyes song.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that
That was
Bright Eyes
probably
was,
nostalgic.
oh, I mean, like I was just like, oh shit, Bright Eyes is in a video game, like
Yeah.
a recent video game.
Yeah.
That kind of caught me a little off guard, and I was like, oh, like especially considering um, Chloe's kind of persona.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that wouldn't be something I would have expected to be in her CD library.
Okay.
I would have expected like a little bit more aggressive stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
But you learn more about her in Life is Strange exclusively because you haven't played Before the Storm, so
I
you don't
haven't,
have
no.
any of the previous history of her, but you do learn
No, but
some of
based
it.
on her dialogue and the stuff that she
Yeah.
says, kind of, yeah, I would expect a little bit more, Black Flag or
Hmm.
even like older grunge, not older emo,
Right.
or like even at that, like the more aggressive, like Fugazi or
Hmm.
um, Sunny Day Real Estate, something a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
Wow. But no, like I definitely I dug the music.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what about the actual like aesthetic and visuals of the game? Did you like the graphics?
Yeah, yeah, it was I I did enjoy it. It was very well done. I did have a bit of an issue right near the end.
Hmm.
I yeah, it was in chapter 5.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I know, I whenever you mentioned it, I noticed this too.
was it in yours?
It wasn't mine
Okay,
too.
so it's just a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something that popped up. There was a an emotional dialogue scene. I mean, everything's emotional dialogue scenes in this fucking game, but we're in chapter 5, like we're building up to this big climax, and there's this whole scene, and there's no lip movement.
Yeah, there's like
It's
probably 6 or 7 lines of Max, and she doesn't have any lip movement whatsoever. And then two of them, Warren doesn't have any lip movement at
For
all.
me, it was the entire scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
there was
okay.
they go and start talking,
Because
and it
I
was just like,
do.
and I'm like, you pulled me right out of the moment. Like
Yeah.
if they like, it doesn't have to be perfect and sync
Hmm.
up. It's a video game. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you have that kind of movement, it keeps you in the scene. It's like you're watching two people talking.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't at that point. I'm like,
Damn it.
damn you, game.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Yeah. Um, the interesting thing about the art style of the game and the graphics, basically, that I really enjoyed about the game was that um all the graphics were basically hand drawn, and
Yes.
then a lot of the visual effects, like the particles and stuff like that, were designed to look like they were hand drawn, like the lighting effects and stuff like that. And most of the important scenes, which is this is like a very photography thing, is the golden hour.
Yeah,
They
and a
mention
lot of
it.
it is in
A
that.
lot of it is within the morning and in the evening golden hour.
Yeah, there's
And
not too much that's like midday.
yeah.
Which, what do people do midday in that town? I mean, apparently nothing.
Yeah.
Also, when do these students go to school? I went to class once.
Well, you got expelled.
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right.
I did not get expelled.
Fair enough.
I
So
was just like, fuck it, I'm not gonna go.
yeah.
It was very reminiscent of my high school experience, but it,
Yeah, yeah. I guess I should ask, like, what was your first impression of Mark Jefferson?
uh,
Without getting into too much of it now, what was your first impression of him? Because I really liked the character. I was like, this guy is so
you
cool.
know what? Like he seemed like a nice teacher. Like he
Yeah.
seemed like a very supportive. Um, I had a couple teachers like that
Hmm.
that were younger. Um,
My media studies teacher, he wasn't like hip and cool like in his dress and hair and stuff like
like Mark
that.
Jefferson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like he definitely was like he was very knowledgeable like that, and like he
Yeah.
could relate to you because he was younger. It was my media studies teacher, and he kind of reminded me of him, like minus the like the sex appealer, for lack of a better term, because like he was like the hot teacher kind of, but like
Okay.
anyway, so I thought it was really interesting because it was like, oh, like, yeah, I had a really cool teacher like that and whatnot, and like it was still like it was media studies, and he taught like photography in the game
Okay, kind of
and stuff,
similar.
and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. It's sort of similar and whatnot, and yeah, didn't really handle the too many conversations well in episode 1 and episode 2 with Kate very well, but like I'm like, well, maybe teachers wouldn't really know how to handle that because most people don't anyway.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you approach it?
yeah. What did you think of Warren at the beginning of the game?
I mean, he reminded me of a high school me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a friend zoned tryhard.
Yeah.
who was, I mean, as far as my gameplay went, he was barking 100% up the wrong tree.
Yeah. Me too.
Um, yeah, but like he's your classic nice guy.
Hmm.
You know, he was doing what he can to be a good friend.
Yeah.
Obviously, hoping that that would lead somewhere else,
Yeah.
but
Maybe trying to
he's
go ape a little bit too much.
a little too much.
Yeah.
But he was ultimately he had good intentions. You know,
Hmm.
he wasn't a creep.
And what about Victoria and the Vortex posse?
Uh, that is, yeah,
I knew that bitch in high school.
I did
Oh my
too,
god.
so much. Yeah, like
Yeah. And that's the one thing I really love about this game. And like a lot of it's relatable. It's like, whoa, this is really too close to real life and how people
but
acted.
I think a lot of people had similar high school experiences. No,
Yeah.
like no matter what side of the like,
Perspective you're on or
yeah,
what clique you're
you
in.
knew those
Yeah.
people. You were that person,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, and that's yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
not to go way off course because I'm sure you were gonna get there, but like Chloe was high school Ian, like
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm.
Um,
And what was your that was the next person I was going to ask you about. So go into Chloe. What did you think what were your initial reactions of Chloe throughout episode like 1?
that was, I mean, my initial react, like I was like, oh geez, it's me. Like someone who got kicked out of school for doing something dumb, um listened to, or yeah, dyed their hair,
Hmm.
dressed the part, huge scene kid, smoked a lot of weed,
Fair
probably
enough.
didn't need to.
Yeah.
um yeah, fought with authority
Yep.
just to fight with authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, I identified with her a little too much.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, when I first saw her, she didn't. I was just like, oh, Jesus, me, shit.
Yeah. My first initial reaction of Chloe was basically I was really uncertain about that character because I didn't really hang out with those types of people.
This is why we weren't friends in high school.
Yeah, and we were pretty neutral. But
It's true.
the I was just like who is this person? And it wasn't really until like chapter 2 started for a lot of the characters where they kind of like become more multi-layered characters
Yeah,
that I started like really enjoying the characters and stuff like that. And like you hate Victoria Chase, but like or you might not, but the thing is like is because she's written well. You know what I
I just
mean?
felt bad for her. So when you had the opportunity
Mhm.
in chapter 1 to take her down a peg,
Yeah,
did you?
and take a photo of her.
Yeah.
So the first time I played the game, no,
No,
I
eh?
did not, because it's probably I tried to play Max in a way that I probably would have done in her high school, and I read all the journal entries, and I felt that really influenced how I played the game as well.
Okay.
And I felt that Max wouldn't have done that, and I don't think I would have done that. So I did not take it the first time.
Me neither.
And I recently replayed the game because we were going to talk about this because you're playing through it.
Yep.
And in this current playthrough, I tried to play like 80% the same of my original playthrough. And I totally took that picture because mainly because I wanted to know more of what would happen. I was just like, fuck you, bitch. Like, there was a lot of that. Like, I was just like, I was more neutral with the Vortex Party the first time I played the game, and this time the only reason why I got on the list was because I was really good friends with the one of them, the person who was like, guarding the list.
I got on the list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can actually manipulate the list.
I mean, also I manipulated the list, but I
Yeah.
got on it anyways
Hmm.
because I was just nice to everybody.
Yeah.
It was me in high school,
Hmm.
very much,
Yeah.
minus the Chloe parts, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I did in the first episode originally. What I didn't actually take the picture. Did you?
No,
No.
no,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't because I knew that high school Ian wouldn't have taken her down a peg.
Yeah.
I would have wanted to, but I also would have felt bad for
Yeah.
her, which I did.
So you're aware, and I guess the viewers, if they're not aware, if you do take a picture, you have the picture in your dorm, and then she actually breaks into your dorm and messes the whole entire place and steals the photo. and you find the photo whenever you go into her room later.
I mean, my room got trashed anyways, but that's
Yeah, but
we'll get into that later, I
that's
guess.
basically what happens with that. So one thing that the designers and Don't Nod did really well, I find, was the people's rooms, and I
Yeah.
thought it was really cool because you can tell a lot about a person from their room, and there was like every person's room looked very authentic to the characters,
It's true.
and it was like there's a juxtaposition between Chloe and Max as people, and
Yes.
they do grow together. And but the like you look at Chloe's room, for example, it's very like grungy and dirty, and it's not really well kept. And then
Nope.
you go to Max's, and sure, it's like it has a lot of things, and it's not necessarily well kept either, but like, it's messy clean. And then like it's
Yeah.
the color scheme is like very like colorful. Like here she has like blues and pinks and stuff like that, which are just like like more bright colors and stuff like that. And then you go to like the different people's rooms, like Nathan's room, and it's like very emo and dark, and it's like that fits the character. And same with Victoria's room. Like, what was your like, did you enjoy that aspect of the game? Did you feel that was a little bit too much, or do you think they got that right?
No, I thought they did an excellent job with it. It made it interesting to go into somebody else's room
Mm-hmm.
because you had to go into other people's rooms at times,
Yeah.
and it made it less cookie cutter. It made everything feel more real.
Yeah.
It was, man.
Because I know one thing that
I'm
you
gonna
like
I'm gonna
about.
date myself, but it was like watching for me. It was like watching Dawson's Creek.
Mm,
It was which I wasn't a fan of initially,
mm-hmm.
but post high school,
Yep.
I think I watched it twice, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe more, and it had that. It's good. It's good teen drama, which yeah,
Yeah.
but that makes it more real.
Mm-hmm.
Having each individual has more personality. It's
Yeah.
not just the only thing that really really bugged me
Mm-hmm.
and really pulled me out, other than the lip thing, was the girl with the braces.
Mm-hmm. Alyssa.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I hated her voice actor.
Oh, okay.
I felt like they were trying too hard. It was like they're like, yeah, it's a bigger girl with braces. Talk like a bigger girl with braces.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, I've got to like be all like jowly and
Right.
bracesy, and I'm just like, ah, this is so bad. You don't sound like an actual person. No person sounds like this. And that like I
Yeah, it
hated
was
that. I
very
hated that character.
film
Yes, I
adaptation.
saved that character every single time.
Yeah. So you ended up saving her at the end.
I missed her at the end.
Oh, you did?
I did, and I felt horrible about it.
You saw the little like, did you
Yeah,
see Alyssa?
and I was like, oh shit, she was there.
Yeah.
I was too focused on because you can see the pictures that you need to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, there's gonna be a whale on fire somewhere, and there's a car hanging off of something.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for those things.
Yeah.
I didn't see her. I had
Right.
no. She probably died before I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every other time
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, I saved her from the pool noodle, the toilet paper, the water. Like,
Yep.
yeah, every opportunity. I'm like, hey man, watch out. Thanks, guys. Even though I had to listen to her, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't want.
Good call, Max. Yeah, that's what she says whenever the toilet paper's thrown at her.
And yeah, her dialogue gets longer each time, and I'm like,
Mhm.
if I knew, I would have just kept on walking. No, I wouldn't have, because even though she's not real, I feel bad for her.
Yeah, that's
She had a horrible voice actor, so I don't know. Maybe you're a great person, but not that you're watching. Maybe you are. I apologize. Just don't be so jowly with it. Am I off base here? Back me up, guys.
Yeah. Where were we? So,
Tangents.
tangents. There's probably going to be a couple of them. So, yeah, back to episode 1. And the design of the rooms and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because it added another layer to the characters. And I know that you like games where you can basically like, interact with a lot of objects, and that's something that this game does really well, is tell the story through its environment. Because every single time Max looks at an object like DVDs or snow globe or something like that, she always says something.
Yep.
Like I think in the first episode, she has like 14,000 lines of like dialogue, and
That's sort of the one
Or-
thing that I didn't like. As weird as that's going to sound.
Mhm.
Because I felt like I had to walk around the environment every time and be like, oh, Like, I felt like I had to touch everything
Yeah.
because you would see the option to touch it, and I'm like, well, I can't not touch it. I have to go and interact with this item.
That's interesting. I thought you would have really enjoyed that.
I,
That's
like
one of my.
I enjoyed the dialogue and stuff, but
Mhm.
it was, to me, it was a little tedious
Right.
because I know you don't have to. I know I don't have to, but I
Right.
have to. I
Yeah.
have to walk around. That's why I loved Gone Home so much.
Yeah.
Because it is just a game where you're walking through someone's house, touching all their stuff.
Yeah. And interacting with it, getting a little bit of monologue. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, okay, all right, hold on. Let me back that up a little bit. I did like it because you could walk through someone's room, touch all their stuff, then be like, will you stop touching my stuff? And then rewind time and be like, I didn't touch your stuff.
Yeah.
But you have all the knowledge of all the stuff that you touched.
And that's one of the weird things about it. And it was
I would have had so many nosebleeds.
So, like, whenever you were talking to all
Yeah.
the kids in Blackwell, did you change your answers a lot?
No,
No?
no, I didn't really have
Because,
to.
like, you can, like, look through Brooke's bag and then take time back and then answer questions differently and
Like,
then
there
be
were
able to play with her drone.
there were
and,
there were some times where you
like, did you get the skateboarding image, for example? Because you can, like, try and talk to the skater kids who she thinks is cute, and then, like, you can learn the lingo and rewind time, and then.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So like pretty much every time the little thing popped up in the corner
Mhm.
that was like, "Oh, you learned something new.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do something with this."
Yes.
I would go back
Right.
and I would use that.
Mhm.
But I, for the most part, like my dialogue options,
You stuck with your choices?
yeah, it was
Yeah. And that's a really interesting thing about this game because, like, you can kind of do the same mechanic without the rewind mechanic. You can
Yeah.
save scum, right? In a game, you can save scum, and then
Oh
you
yeah,
can go back.
you
And then,
totally could.
like in Baldur's Gate, you can quick save, and then you can do all the dialogue one way, and you're like, I don't like that. Reload. And you can kind of do the same thing, but it's kind of weird because a lot of the choices in this game, they're like, they make you think. Or at least I feel like they make a lot of people think. Even like I've watched like 20, 30 people play this game on YouTube just to see how other people play this game.
So what I found was when you hit those big like, and to me these pull me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you hit one of these, where you get that like, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is a big choice that I have to make.
Yeah.
That always pulled me out a little bit. I liked
Right.
that they had that like, oh, this is an important one.
Yeah.
I do like that you get that notification, but the way that they conveyed it
Mm-hmm.
to me was a little, especially in the later episodes
Oh,
when you're like,
I absolutely hated how they do that. Just
you're like
because
in a
it's
tense
stress-
moment, and then you're like, pull you right out of that by
Yeah.
flashing this thing in your face.
I actually hated that because of the way that it affected me. Because, like, for example, whenever it's like, we'll do a simple one right now. It's like, whenever it's like, don't shoot Frank or shoot him,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, oh shit, and like I'm gonna have to think about this for a minute, right? And it gave you that to do it. And there were some times where like there were certain scenes I was literally pacing around the room, being like, oh my god, what the fuck? Why did you make me choose? Like, why are you making me choose this?
Pretty much. I mean, our messenger log can back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every time I hit one of those decisions,
Yeah.
it was a message to JC being like, "Why did you do this to me? Why am I playing this?
Because it's such a great game.
There's no good decisions ever."
Yeah.
But the thing was, I found that I would make my decision,
Mm-hmm.
watch the outcome. I'd usually go back.
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, ugh.
Like the first big one is, do you take the picture of Kate or do you intervene with David? And it's like, which one are you going to do? That's probably one of the biggest ones that like in the first episode, right?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, the principal, because that's before that.
oh, I was like, whatever. That didn't even make me. I didn't even think about that. I was just like,
Oh.
I'm not telling the principal.
I mean, I did, but
Why would I tell the principal?
I don't know.
Not a snitch. Gator ain't no snitch. So yeah, that's true. That is the first time you see the mechanic, but I think
Even like I found I would at early on
mhm,
I would be like, ugh, and then I would go back, do
Right.
the other option, and be like, ugh,
yeah.
go back, do it the first way,
Hmm.
because I was more comfortable with that. And then
Yeah.
I basically learned that like whatever my instinct is probably right to
Yeah.
what I want to see, even if it's not ideal.
Right.
So I
But it's interesting how the game actually allowed you to like come to that realization where it's just like you think it's correct, and then you go back and you're like, maybe it's not, and you either make the decision of like, oh, no, I was correct, or no, like I'm gonna stick with this, right? And I thought that was really effective because it's like some of them are really satisfying early, and it's like um the scene with the diner and not answering Kate's call is a good example of this. If you answer the call, um, Kate will have an easier time not jumping.
Yep.
And if you don't answer the call, Chloe will be happy with you because her mom won't basically reprimand her for something that you never really figure out about.
Yeah.
And assuming that Kate survives, then you actually get guilt from Chloe later if you don't answer the phone call. Okay. And if you do answer the phone call, she kind of like reaffirms still, but it's not as much guilt. It's like in a different sense of it.
Yeah, she's
Where,
basically like, I'm sorry I was a bitch about
yeah,
this.
basically. And whenever you don't answer the call, she's kind of like a little bit more panicked, like, holy shit, like you were trying to be there for your friend and I didn't realize this and stuff like that. And she's a little bit more remorseful
Yeah.
in that path than than she would have in the thing. And an interesting fact about that scene, the developers actually weren't originally going to put it in there.
Oh.
They actually put it in there due to fan reaction because people liked Kate so much that they felt they needed to have another scene like that with Kate so that you go back and visit her, and that's why that scene exists.
Oh, geez.
And
Okay.
so because they did it in an episodic format, they were able to get fan reaction in between the episodes and actually be able to do stuff like that by adding in that scene completely like out of nowhere, basically.
Huh.
For
Okay.
example, because the original concept of it, that you didn't go to the hospital to see Kate.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a heads up. Yeah. So okay, so you told the principal.
I did tell the principal.
Did you tell off David or take a picture of him?
I told off David.
Cool. Why did you do that?
Because he was being a dick.
Mhm.
He's a security guard. He's
Yeah.
a rent-a-cop. And to me, I mean, when you're put in the role of a blank slate character,
Yeah.
I mean, it's your job to
Evolve and
yeah,
develop it, but like
to develop.
she's
It was my job to make that character a thing.
yeah, and she's a blank slate in the sense that like she has like a moral compass that you're presented with, and then you're very able to make her be a lot more assertive or just as
Yeah,
wishy
yeah,
washy
and
as
and for me, if I saw some like rent-a-cop harassing a friend of mine, someone who has like zero
because
authority,
you don't really know who he is at that point.
no, he's just a
Yeah.
dude wearing a security hat.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Stop being a dick. Go do your job. Go
Yeah.
write tickets. Go tell kids not to spray paint.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a lot of graffiti there.
yeah, you're hassling some girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's my friend.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
fuck off, dickbag.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That was an easy one.
that was an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was the first choice in the game where it kind of actually made me think because I'm like I was a little uncertain just because I'm like, why is this happening? Right.
I'm like, why am I going to take a picture of this? This is not the time for a picture. This is the time to be like,
Well, I was uncertain if Max was kind of
rent
like
a
that.
cup, sit the fuck down.
I was uncertain as to whether or not Max would be a character where they'd be like, because like some photographers are very like take the shot, and Mr. Jefferson
guess
is very
so,
like
yeah.
you have to take the shot, Max. I'm like, would she be a person who's just like the photojournalist and just takes the shot and doesn't care about it? I don't really know how well I know Kate. I get she's in distress. I got that from the first scene.
I mean,
but-
I talked to her at the beginning, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, we should go get tea again soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, they must be friends. I'm not going to get tea with somebody that I don't like.
Which never happens, which really bothers me. But anyway.
Well, yeah. there was other things going on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Cool. What was your major reaction to the end of episode 1?
So episode 1 ends. I'm like, I instantly felt bad for Chloe.
Mhm.
Instantly, because it's like, oh, all right, like, you know, I'm glad that I ratted. I'm glad that I mentioned something about Nathan being a dick to the principal.
Right.
You know, we got to do something to get this kid arrested.
Mhm.
You know, obviously he's done this to 2 people now.
Right.
So it confirmed my suspicions about somebody being a dick.
Mhm.
And yeah, it to me, it endeared Chloe to me more.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
because I'm like,
I was on
we
the
got to do something.
I was on the fence about Chloe until the end of episode 1 and episode 2. Once those two things happened, I was like more open to Chloe because you found out a lot more about her, a
Yeah,
lot more about like you leaving and stuff like that, and going to Seattle and whatnot, and just
like,
how
yeah,
you reacted to the move and stuff like that, and then about her dad dying in episode 2 and stuff like that. And I was just like, no, I understand where this character is kind of coming Tell me about your
yeah.
experiences with episode 2, because episode 2 is whenever you like learn more about the
That was
characters.
like
And
that was one of the biggest, the first biggest emotional moments
hmm
was there.
right,
Um,
that being
well, uh, that's when Kate is on the rooftop.
yep,
Uh,
which if you've seen
you,
the previous episode is my most stressful moment in video games,
yeah,
because you lose your rewind ability.
yep,
Holy shit.
yeah, that was real stressful.
Yeah. And the major reason why I found that stressful was because depending on what you do, this is whenever it really becomes obvious that there's like different ways to answer the questions and how they affect the game. There's the short term, the midterm, and the long term. It might affect how it affects immediately, how it affects maybe an episode or two from now, and how it affects basically the end of the game
Hmm.
and the end episode. And yeah, it's just like if you don't answer the call, that doesn't help. If you
Don't erase the
don't
whiteboard.
erase the whiteboard constantly,
Don't erase the mirror in the bathroom.
yep, yep. And if you interact with a bunch of the objects in the room, like her Bible and stuff like that, you can learn
Yep.
her favorite verse and stuff like that. And it's like you can bring all that up, and every time you talk to her, it's just like, um, uh, they like ask you more and more questions depending on what you did. And like both times, the original time and the this most recent time that I played the game, I got asked a lot of questions. And it's really interesting because like I had to remember, so the first time I played the game, Kate jumped, and the second time I played the game, I made sure Kate didn't jump. But then I answered very similarly, and I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah, I remember there being a lot of questions, but it's like I had to remember that her favorite verse was like Matthew something. And I'm just like, how the hell am I supposed to remember that? And
Yeah.
there was a lot of other questions that were very specific, like what family member she most relates to. And I think I mentioned her father or something in whenever I originally played it, but the actual answer is like her sisters.
I mean, I mentioned her dad,
Right. But it's like
and
there's a neutral answer, and it's like kind of like it doesn't. I don't know exactly how this works. This is my perception on this. Is like it adds 0 or -1 or +1, and then depending on what your score is, she'll jump or she won't jump, right?
yeah,
And some of them get very very specific, and it's like, holy crap! Like I was reading everything and paying attention to everything and stuff like that, but it's just like one, you're in a stressful situation, and two, it's just like I don't really want to be here right now. This is extremely like no thank you, like it's hard to handle.
yeah. Like I'm pretty sure I messaged JC like
Yeah,
the
that was
moment it
one of
happened,
the
and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?"
yeah.
He's like, "What?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
like
where
Kate
are
is on a
you?
rooftop."
There's
Like,
a many what the fuck moments in this game. What one are you at?
yeah,
Like end of episode 2. I'm like, oh right, end of episode 2. You should watch the episode stressful moments in video games now. Yeah.
I mean, in my first playthrough, I talked her off the rooftop,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, a world without Kate.
Yeah. It's basically so what happens whenever Kate jumps is especially at the end of the game, whenever you're going through like the dream nightmarish part in episode 5, she basically haunts you and then it's like, why did you let me jump?
Oh,
And that
geez.
made the
Oh,
entire
God.
game worse. I was just basically like in shock, like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like it already bothered me because she jumped. That's a very nerve-wracking thing to have
Oh,
happen.
yeah.
Like
I
cuz
mean, for me in my playthrough, she told me what room number Nathan's was.
yeah.
I get a text from her as soon as I get there. They're like, "You got to hurry up," and then I get this message that's like, "Oh yeah, Nathan's room is this." I'm like, "Dope,
Yeah.
straight there."
Mhm. And yeah, so that's something that happens if she dies. You don't get the hospital scene, obviously. That just
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, it couldn't.
People blame you in the next episode
Oh,
about
jeez.
jumping. They critique and criticize you. Some people are on your side, and they have people on both sides, and it just like really hammers in because it's like you were there, she jumped, like you're a monster, like
Why didn't you save
why
her?
didn't you save her? It's like,
Yeah.
well, what could have I done, right? And then you get
You
the
could have done what I did.
yes, and answer that damn call, and
I didn't.
you didn't. Oh,
No, I
okay.
didn't.
You gotta ask more questions. Um, and yeah, it's like I said, it goes into episode 5 where she actually like in your head like tells you like, why did you let me jump? And it's just like,
I wouldn't have been able to
oh
handle
my
that.
god, why? Yeah, yeah. I was like very panicky at that moment. Earlier in the episode, you go to the junkyard and
Have to look for bottles. That was a pain
yeah, that was kind of an annoying part, but they did that on purpose apparently. So they
to make
admit
the
that the
game less
last
fun.
pardon.
To make the game less fun.
Well, they admitted in the docu episodes that they hid the last bottle a little bit too hard, but what they wanted you to do was actually uh, explore the area and force you to explore, and it was a way to get you to explore. And one of the areas you go to is the old hiding pad of both Rachel
Did you
and
write your name on the wall?
yes, I did.
Me too.
Yeah, in both playthrough, the most recent and my original playthrough, I wrote my I think I did that every time, but Rachel and Chloe's like hiding area, and you look at all the objects and stuff like that, and you figure out a lot about Rachel inadvertently from that because you can find the crumpled up letter.
And they're like, you can, yeah, you learn a little bit more about their relationship
Yeah, exactly.
by touching stuff.
Yeah, and I thought that was actually really really cool because it was an interesting way because like a lot of the background of this game comes through either the diary or through the environment, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and one interesting thing about that game that most people don't notice is you can take a picture of like the doe.
Yes.
Yes, and the doe is Rachel.
Well,
It is the doe of others minute it is.
oh, okay.
And so
Because I knew that they were, like, I didn't, as a very Ian thing, I didn't watch any of the documentary stuff.
yeah,
Because
but
that's not me.
one
But
interesting thing that
I
you might not
knew
have
that
caught
they
on.
were alluding to that
Yeah,
the whole, like, not immediately, but the second time that I saw
it's
her
Max's
there, I'm like,
spirit animal, but
yeah.
yeah, the big clue is in that scene because you actually see the doe over top of where they find Rachel's body, and
Yeah.
then it moves up the hill, and that's what the clue is. It's like that she's dead, and you probably don't know that by then.
No.
You might have guessed that she's dead, or just oh she's probably dead, but like you don't fully know. And yeah, I thought that was really really interesting because I didn't notice that right away either. But then whenever I was told that, I was just like, because the two lead designers were talking about that scene and stuff like that, and I thought that that was really really interesting how
Mm.
they bring that in. She comes in, kind of guides Max a bunch of times throughout the game,
Yep.
like in the very first scene, whenever you're walking towards the lighthouse,
Yep.
and in that scene, and then later on as well, in a few scenes as well. But yeah, so yeah, I guess let's go on to episode 3 because episode 3, the climax of episode 2 was Kate jumping,
Yes.
and there's obviously like a lot of
Well,
backstory
I
to
mean,
with that.
there's also, it's the in the principal's office.
Hmm.
Who do you say? Who do you blame?
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah, that's episode 1, kind
no,
of.
that was two.
Oh, that's true. Yes, yes, yes. No,
Because
I
it's a
was
big
thinking
deal
of
that
with Prescott and telling him whether or not Nathan was there. Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and you can blame. So
Nathan.
let's talk about that. You can blame who you should, Nathan, because he's a jerk. But I guess there's a reason why. You can also blame David, and you
Yep.
can blame Mark Jefferson. And the interesting thing about each of those choices is they have huge ramifications onto which one you do. So if
Yeah.
you blame Mark because he was bullying Kate, then people are kind of like cautious of him. And then at the end of the game, and the huge climax at the end of episode 4, he in the dark room he actually mentions that it's like, oh, you were kind of on to me, and like he's surprised and whatnot. I forget exactly what he says because I've only blamed him once, but
Mm.
yeah, it's like, oh shit, like yeah, you can kind of see that because there's other clues that it's him too, but Yeah, so you blame Nathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like doesn't even get expelled because of his stupid Prescott. He's like he
Well,
gets in trouble,
he does get expelled
and then you
initially,
get
but then they bring him
expelled, and
back
they bring him
in.
back anyway. And I'm just like, oh my
I didn't
god,
get
it's so
expelled
annoying.
though.
Yeah, I did. So that was kind of funny.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
I did not.
Cool. Okay, so let's go into episode 3.
Okay.
So episode 3 is the episode that you kind of get some information in the dormitories about Victoria,
Yep.
and the you kind of like go through the school during the evening with Chloe,
Yep.
and from there you kind of go through to the swimming pool and stuff like that. How did you like that scene? Like, what were your thoughts and experiences with that? I thought that scene was kind of cool because like this episode to me is where you learn a lot about Chloe,
Yes.
and you learn a lot about their friendship and the missed friendship, and I thought that was kind of cool because I have a couple of instances in life where it's like there's a lot of like missed friendships where it's like I have a couple people where like I have not talked to them since high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like I probably should have and stuff like that. And this is kind of similar because like they were 5 years ago and stuff like that and whatnot. And it's like you can tell a lot, especially through the dialogue and their interactions and stuff, that it's like they really like it's really unfortunate that they got separated,
Mm.
right? And yeah. The I guess let's just jump into did you kiss Chloe?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I felt like that was the direction that they were leading the relationship
Mm-hmm.
between the two.
Yeah, because you can kind of play the game as like a BFF or as a partner.
Yeah. And
And
I didn't see it. I saw it more of a relationship. Like
yeah,
I feel like that's the path that they wanted you to
yeah.
take. They wanted you to have a relationship with this individual.
I've never played the game as Chloe BFF, but I have seen a playthrough of like somebody basically going like full Warren basically, and then
Interesting.
playing choices towards Chloe as more of the BFF and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And the dialogue choices are definitely interesting. They're very similar still, and I also feel that like it was kind of like the whole Max Chloe thing is definitely what
It's what
is
they
being shipped.
very much what they wanted, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Cool. I did that as well, and I thought it was really really awkward though. Whenever you wake up in the morning, and then she tells you to put on Rachel's clothes because your clothes are chlorine ridden. I'm like, that's kind of
It
weird.
is
Because
kind
at
of
that point,
weird.
I'm like, I think Rachel's dead.
Yeah,
Like by
and
episode,
it's like her dead ex-girlfriend.
yeah,
And she's like, "Yeah, wear my dead ex's clothes."
yeah,
And you're
because
like,
she
"Oh,
makes some
geez."
comments about like she you can tell that like even if you're not into the relationship like partner relationship with Chloe like she's very like at least bisexual,
Yeah.
so cuz like you can see that she was definitely um a girlfriend of Rachel because of some of the like
Yes.
dialogue and comments that are made and stuff like that, and I thought that was a little strange. But following scene where Joyce sees you and she's like, "Oh, hi, Rachel. I mean Chloe." That was kind of comical because
You're
that's
like,
totally
"Oh,
something that would happen.
yeah."
Yeah, yeah. And then like David accuses you of wearing the other clothes, and it's like you're just like trying too hard and stuff like that. Yeah, but actually, here's a thing that we skipped of the previous episode. What did you do whenever David walked into Chloe's room and accused her of the drugs? Because that's actually a really big decision as to whether or not uh you take the blame or stay in the shadows or
My impulse was to stay in the shadows because
okay,
I thought it would have been more trouble if I jumped out of the closet
right.
because I already had a bad rapport with him.
Okay, so you actually saw a very
So
interesting
I
scene then.
so I stayed in the closet, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I felt really bad for it, but then going back and watching because I'm like, "Oh, that's gross. I don't want that to happen." But then
Mm-hmm.
going back and jumping out, I'm like, "That's arguably worse."
Yeah.
Like
because like what happens if you stay in is
She's been in a mosh pit before. She can take a hit.
yeah, because what happens is he actually hits her,
Yeah.
and which I'll bring something up about the game as well that I found interesting. But he hits her, and then the reaction of Chloe is basically like, "Don't worry about it. It just would have been worse if you come in anyway."
Yeah.
And your final decision was to take
Yep.
the blame, or
No,
oh okay.
I let her take the hit.
Oh, okay. That's how you played it through?
Yep.
Okay, so the first time I played the game, I stood up for Chloe, but it was Chloe's pot. And then this most recent playthrough, like I said, I wanted to play it about 80% the same. I actually took the blame and said it was my pot. So I tried to
Ooh.
make Chloe way more assertive in
That's
this.
probably why you got expelled, asshole.
Yeah, it was.
See, there you go. That's
It was one of the reasons, but yeah. Yeah, I tried to play Chloe a lot more assertive because I played her a little bit more neutral the very first time that I played, and like I said, I wanted to play through it again to be able to like remember and relate my original playthrough. I still have
yeah.
the save file, so I could remember all the choices and stuff like that, and I still remember most of them. But and yeah, I ended up like, no, I'm gonna switch this up and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's a really interesting thing about the game. So we've already talked about suicide. We've talked about domestic abuse.
Yep.
We've talked about some other things, and the game talks about other very real, like depression and joblessness. Because like regardless of if it's with William or with David, Chloe's family isn't rich. They're very
No,
low
they're
income family. She works at a diner and doesn't make very much. In one timeline, alternate reality, she works two jobs,
yep.
which we'll get to in a minute. And it goes over these very like hard hitting, very realistic things with people. And a lot of video games don't do that. And that really threw me off.
But but on that though,
Mm-hmm.
even though like yes, they're they're struggling financially.
Yeah.
They it's a 3-bedroom home
Yeah, but
with
homes in the States don't.
with a massive garage.
Yeah.
And like I understand that, homes might be cheaper in the US, but people make less money in the US too.
To an extent, yeah.
Like that's you
But
yeah.
you don't like they have a you learn that they have a mortgage, and in some instances you can learn that they're thinking about taking a second mortgage,
Yes.
depending on like what
I mean,
circumstances.
it's
Yeah. So
now
like
that's more episode 3 stuff right
yeah,
there, but
but one thing
yeah,
that I
it's
want.
it's still like it to me it's that classic like
Mhm.
if you watch House Hunters at all,
Right.
it's always like, I'm a professional juggler and my wife, you know,
Right.
blogs part-time.
Mhm.
Our budget's $1 million.
Right.
Like it's insane. Like I know so many people who
Mhm.
have, decent jobs who could never afford a 3-bedroom home with a huge garage like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously they can't. But at
Mhm.
some point someone gave them money to do it.
Right, but that's kind of like an entrapment that a lot of people can relate to and who lived in, and
I guess that's true.
yeah. So one thing that
They should have had an apartment.
the one thing that the developers or rented the house, but what which
Eh,
probably wasn't an option for them. But one thing that the developers mentioned in the game is that their intention was to go over those types of things,
mhm.
and they actually went through a lot of publishers before they found Square Enix, and they didn't want them to go through that kind of content, so they kept on
Well,
going to different
the
publishers.
one of the biggest issues that I read about after the fact was
Hmm.
Max as a female character.
Yeah,
A lot of people didn't want a female
they
lead.
didn't want a female lead, but it was really cool because Square Enix actually was like, no, 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 we want you to cover them, but we want to make sure that you're going like they were on the same page. Like make sure we touch upon the subject like in a good manner, like appropriately and stuff like that. We're
Yeah.
fine with having a female lead. We're fine with the LGBT like friendly characters and stuff like that, and we're fine with the hard hitting like emotional things and stuff like that. And yeah, because one of the big things about the game is that it really does go over a lot of those different things, and I think that's one of my favorite parts about like it's kind of like side lore and stuff like that and actions and whatnot is going through those types of things because it's like you're making hard choices and
Yeah, they're very
yeah.
hard and sort of relatable decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've never a lot of people haven't talked somebody off of a physical edge,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm sure everybody has talked someone down from something horrible at one
Hmm.
point in their life.
Yeah. But moving on, one of the other big motifs of this game is you start seeing a lot of dead animals, like birds specifically, and
Yep.
that really creeped me out because there's
Yeah,
a
me
lot of
too.
like ominous things where it's like, oh, there's like the eclipse and like like what's happening and whatnot, and like all of a sudden like there's dead birds all over the place,
Yep.
and Samuel, the caretaker of the Blackwell, is like, oh, like I had to clean up a bunch of birds. He mentions in one of the later episodes, right? I think in episode 4 or 5, and it's like what is going on? Like there's some sort of like supernatural happening, and there's like happening, and you're starting to see like effects of like all of Max's time manipulation, and it's just like what is going on?
Yeah.
And then you kind of do like one of the neatest things about this episode, which is the flashback,
Yeah.
and that's you go back in time because you're like Chloe's father William died, and you kind of try and fix it.
Yep.
And you go back in time and you kind of play like a hide the keys game, and it's just like okay, so you go back in time and you actually see like the scene of William leaving, and
Did you get the keys hidden properly the first time?
no. I actually whenever I haven't played this like recently, and whenever I like played it over the last week, I actually just threw them in the potted plant, and then I was like, "What? Oh fuck, right. He has a spy gadget thing." And then I was like, yeah, one part about that annoyed me was the first time whenever I played the game, I didn't write my name on the chalk thing, like on the
I did.
oh, I rewound time to fix the key thing, and I wrote it all like it de-wrote the
Oh,
thing, and I was
okay.
like, damn, I forgot. Like, I need to make sure because it's been such a long like a couple few years since I played it, and I'm like, damn, I forgot about that. I wanted that to happen again. But yeah, the flashback episode I think is really emotional because it's like you're actually trying to help out your friend, but like I
Yeah.
was like thinking the entire time, I'm like, this is a bad idea, Max. This is a terrible idea.
Yep.
Like the whole game goes over like chaos theory and butterfly effect, like very briefly,
But I
and
mean, you already see
they've shown it to you
like
firsthand,
yeah, you see
and you're
reactions to what you're doing very early on.
yeah,
And you're like, "Okay, there's birds that are dying. Okay, there's stuff that's happening in nature that's not normal.
yeah,
All right, well, I'm going to go way back and just change this major thing in someone's life.
yeah,
There
because
can
she
be
finds
no
out
negative
this.
consequences to that."
No, none whatsoever. And the climax of that episode was like a huge shocker. I
Yeah,
just
I didn't.
stared at the screen with my jaw dropped, and I was just like, "What?"
So I'd been mostly playing this like um episodically.
Hmm.
Well, you have to play it episodically, but I wasn't like
You gave a little
binging
bit of
it.
break in between.
Yeah, I would play like one episode and then like, do whatever the like finish my day and then
Hmm.
like the next day I'd play another one. And when I hit that, I was like, well, I'm fucking playing the next like I have to go into the next episode now. I
I,
have to.
I did the exact same thing because I was just like,
It was just too much.
yeah, it was way too much. I'm like, this can't be happening right now. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? And yeah, that's actually like you. I'm assuming you realize every time you had to load a new episode that the scene of Arcadia Bay changed.
I never noticed.
You never noticed that?
You know what? I wasn't really paying attention.
Oh, okay. Because the first one is like normal, and the second one's like night, and the for the fourth episode before you load it, there like do you see the whales on the beach and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm
And
incredibly bad for not paying
oh,
attention to stuff
okay,
like that.
yeah,
I mean, if
and
something's loading, I'm gonna like look at my phone or like space out for a
that's
minute.
kind of funny. Because
So
yeah,
I no, I didn't notice at all.
I noticed the whales right away in
I'm
the
not gonna
loading
lie.
screen, and for the next episode, right after the climax of the end of episode 3, and I was like, oh crap, like now it's not just birds. Like, because you saw
Yeah,
it at the end
that's
of the
true.
episode, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
oh,
do, and
it's
you
showing all this other stuff. Like, what's gonna happen
when
next?
you
Like,
see the whales, you're like, well, fuck.
and
Yeah,
Chloe's in a wheelchair, and I was like, what the fuck?
yeah. I'm like, well,
And
I guess I'm playing another episode. Fuck.
you're in a parallel like alternate reality basically, and they throw this at you, and yeah,
You know what? I mean, I looked at it like I'm like, well, I'm gonna spend time with my friend
hmm
because this, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you spent the previous episode building, um, well, I I guess really building on that relationship. Like you
Yeah.
had a friendship prior to that, but you're building a relationship with this
Yeah.
character.
You finally learned about, like, you've linked most of the stuff from her past.
Yeah.
You've seen the specific scene of William leaving the house firsthand. You've rekindled that friendship.
Yep.
And
Well, and you've gone beyond that. So I mean,
exactly.
you're like, yeah, okay, like let's hang out. We're gonna be
Mm-hmm. They're partners at that point, basically,
yeah.
depending on like how we played the game. They're partners at that point.
She
Um,
just doesn't know it. That's kind of creepy.
is not?
Well, Chloe doesn't know it because she's in a wheelchair, and
Oh, right. So
yeah,
in this alternate reality, she
yeah,
doesn't.
she has no idea, and you're just
What
like,
what I
well, all right,
found really cool about the alternate reality, and I didn't really know where they were going with this, because I'm like, is this going to be like a like constant like iterations of different multiple realities, and eventually you'll get to a final reality? But it didn't
yeah,
work out that way. But what I thought was really cool about this alternate reality is Max actually was a good friend and like did contact her. She didn't like phone her or like come and visit her or anything like that. But she did send her a few letters. It was better than the original reality in that respect, where it was like she got a some communication from Max. It
and
wasn't very much, but like at least it was better.
like so when my Max came to in the new reality, she was
Hmm.
hanging out with Victoria.
Yeah, that's
Okay, that's
automatic.
standard. Okay,
That's standard.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this is weird, but
Yeah, because
whatever.
she's more of a popular person, more outgoing. She's completely like a 180 character,
Yeah,
but she's like, yeah, she's in with the Vortex Club basically.
yeah,
Which you can get in with the Vortex Club on the normal alternate reality if
I
you
did.
wish. But I never did that. Fuck the Vortex Club, they suck.
I was
But
friends with everybody. I can understand. I can see where most people are coming from as long as they're not like
yeah, I was very neutral with the Vortex Club the
really
first
bad people.
game,
Like
or sort
Nathan.
of
Nathan was a really bad person,
yeah.
so I couldn't get down with that. But I talked to everybody else.
Hmm. But anyway, episode 4. So we're back in this alternate reality. Chloe's in a wheelchair. She's in a lot of pain.
Yep.
You spend a really nice day with her. She tells you that it's basically the happiest she's been.
Uh, did you guys watch Blade Runner together?
Yeah, that's guaranteed too.
No, it isn't.
It isn't?
No,
I've never seen. What other movie can you see?
no. It's. I don't think there's another. I think it might be generic.
No, I'm pretty sure it's always Blade
I
Runner.
feel like it's not. I thought I read that it's based on some like dialogue choices
Oh, okay.
that it's Blade Runner. But
It's
anyways,
one, Blade Runner is my favorite movie. And two, well, Highlander is, and then Blade Runner is my second
really
favorite movie.
Highlander?
I can go into it in
All
different.
right, we're not going to, but
I'll go in after the
I
episode.
mean, it's a great theme song, but
Yeah. Anyway, Blade Runner is like,
much better soundtrack.
sure, it is my second favorite movie. And I thought that, like, it's kind of fitting that it's the movie they watch. But
It's a
anyway,
real good movie.
it is. And best sequel. But anyway, so the yeah, so it's Blade Runner. Um, she asks you to go get morphine after you wake up after the scene of you watching it. You can go in and talk to William and then learn a little bit more about their troubles in this alternate reality.
Which I did. I mean, it's
Yeah.
me. I went through. I touched everything. I
Hmm.
interacted with everybody.
Yeah, and you learn that they're in a lot of debt.
Oh yeah, a ton.
Like tons of it. Like there's like a bill for thousands of dollars just for like basic medical needs.
There's like you can find a couple of bills, and all of which are
it's like
going to
thousands of dollars.
collections.
Yes. And you can find the bills at the front steps and like everything is overdue and
Yeah.
they're not
No, they're not doing well.
Like they were bad. Like David and Joyce and Chloe were like in a low income bad status like in like the original reality, and
Yeah.
this is better. The house is painted and like everything, but it's like they're drowning in bills.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's again like it's that
Hmm.
that's the American medical
Yeah,
system, right? Like
it is.
it's very unfortunate, but it's
Mhm.
something like that would just cripple a family.
It would, and it does. And I thought it was really interesting how they went over that other touching subject, because
Yep.
medical expenses are that. And like you can even see a letter from William's job, and they cut a bunch of his insurance premiums and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like we can no longer cover this stuff from Chloe, and sorry, but
yeah. It's like
yeah.
we can't cover these basic needs.
Mm-hmm. So you get the morphine, you give it to Chloe, and then you have another really stressful moment. The game touches euthanization of humans,
Yep.
and Chloe asks you to grab the photo album, and you look through it, and she tells you something to the effect of like, "I want this is the happiest moment I've ever been since before the crash, and I want my last memory to be of you. Like, will you kill me?" And I was just like, oh my god, why? And I literally paced around the room for like in a very bad state, like for 5, 10 minutes or something like that. Like, why are you asking me this game? This is cruel. This is very
Uh,
cruel. What did you end up
I
doing?
turned it up to 11.
You turned it up to 11.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean,
Me.
I didn't instantly make the decision,
Yeah.
but after like a minute or two of just being like, well, I mean, she's not real.
Sure.
That's a huge determining factor. This person doesn't exist.
I like to play the games as if like they're on their own reality
I
though.
mean, yeah, but um, not an actual person.
Mm-hmm.
She is your best friend.
Yes.
She's obviously suffering
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I'm like, and I figured I was gonna go and change something about this because everything I know about Max up until this point is anytime she runs into a massive issue,
Rewind.
she's just gonna fucking rewind it and change it somehow.
Rewind, get a
So
nosebleed, move on.
yeah, I'm like at least I can let this reality's version of Chloe know that I did the right thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
pull the plug, like,
Yeah.
well,
I personally have an issue with like the whole subject of doing that cuz I wouldn't want it to have happened to me. Um that's what I'm saying in my life now and have for a very long time.
oh yeah, like
And
me too. I
because of that, it was a very hard choice for me, but due to the love between the characters and even the effects of all those bills, which is why I was mentioning them, had an effect on my decision. I'm like, maybe I can help out this timeline's Chloe
and her
and
family.
her family just to accelerate this process a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's
Well, because she was
terrible to
well,
say,
but the
but
doctors were even saying that she's not gonna like she only
live,
had a few
yeah.
more months
And
and
Chloe
was
heard
just
the
gonna suffer.
conversation, like, because they thought she was asleep and stuff like that, and she's well aware of like what's going on. I ended up doing the same thing. If you're a fan of the game and you played through it, I'd be really interested as to specifically what you chose in this. It's one
Yeah.
of the things in the Let's Plays that I've watched that I'm always really interested in. When this choice specifically, this and the last choice of what people select. So let me know in the comments down below what you chose and why, and what was your decision for it. Maybe it was just a whim and you're just like, yeah, whatever. It's more of just a video game to you. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear. So you do that, and then there's a little bit of a somber moment, and you just
And then
travel
you're like,
back in
nah,
time.
fuck it. I'm gonna go back in time and change everything back
Yeah.
to the way it was. Which again, I mean, that was a hard thing being like, yep, I'm
Hmm.
just sending you off to die.
Yeah.
And I know I'm doing it, but
Yeah.
the alternate is just not good.
Yeah. This is probably the first instance where I really started to think the reason why I was pacing for a really long time. I'm like, is this game? I probably went way too far into it than I probably should have, but I was like, is this game going to have like some effect of like the multiple realities? And have them all like have some sort of effect, like what happens to this reality if you do it, or like is it singular timeline, multiple timeline? It never really answers that question,
No, it
and they
doesn't.
didn't do it on purpose. They never really, or at least I feel they didn't do it on purpose, because like they never really explain Max's power on purpose either. They kind of give you the basics. You see that she's kind of interested in it, and like they tell you the bare minimums of what you need to know, and they're just like,
Yeah.
let's concentrate on the ideas in the story. So it was like, well, maybe it just doesn't really like matter, or maybe it does. And I was kind of trying to figure out if it would have like a big effect, because I'm like, what am I gonna tell like the real Chloe or OG Chloe whenever I go back? And she just says, I can't tell her. And I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I was like, if I was Max in that situation, I'm like, there's no way I can tell her that I just did this. Like, I don't care. Like, and I thought that was a very fitting dialogue. And another reason why I really like this game is because a lot of the dialogue based off of your choices, because there's so many choices and there's so many like permutations that they went through.
Hmm.
A lot of it fits very, very well and makes the game again feel more organic and real because of the way that the characters interact based off of your actions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just before the climax of the episode, you go to the Vortex Club
The
party.
end of the world party.
Yeah, end of the world party. And there's two moons. or
There's you see the
yeah.
two.
So the big choice here is, do you warn Victoria about Nathan? Because you're looking for Nathan and
Yep.
you're asking everybody, where's Nathan? Where's Nathan? And then finally you get into the VIP section. I really like that song, by the way, by Breton. It's pretty cool. But
I warned her.
you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because
And
like
did she heed your advice? That's
Yep.
really okay.
she did.
Interesting.
Because even though we didn't we weren't friends.
You really have to get her neutral to get her to believe you.
Yeah, and I had her.
That's
I had her
interesting.
neutral.
Okay.
So
The first time, I didn't warn her at all.
wow, that's cold.
Yeah, it is very cold.
That's so cold.
And the second time, I attempted to warn her, and she didn't believe me. Like the most recent playthrough that I've done, which was I was trying to do very similar to the original, as I think I've mentioned a bunch of times now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, the first time I played the game, I didn't warn her. I was just like,
that is
"You do you, bitch." Yeah, I was
that is
very
some
cold.
ice cold shit.
I was very cold to the Vortex Club the very first time. Yeah, I got some very bad flashbacks from high school. So
I mean, I
mean,
I
think
had
about it, like,
I had a giant mohawk in
in-
high school when that wasn't cool at all.
In my original game, Kate jumped. Everybody was teasing me that it was my fault. She was one of those people.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck you. Like I was kind of done with them. Yeah.
Okay. See, where's the mine? Kate didn't
Yeah.
jump.
And then
Everybody
where-
was.
in mine where she didn't jump. I felt like I should have warned her. Yeah. Because I kind of tried to play to like the character choices and stuff like that, and role
Yeah.
play it as best as I could. So
Yeah, I warned her. She believed me.
Mhm.
Yeah. It didn't help, but
Mhm.
she believed me.
Yeah, at least she believes you.
Yeah.
And then the biggest reveal happens. You try and Nathan warns you that you're going to not be able to recognize Rachel's body because he's going to go and
He's gonna get rid of it.
get
yeah.
rid of it and destroy it and desecrate the bones essentially.
Which you find it, like when you find it, that's when because you see the dough again,
Mhm.
and then it disappears, like it like fades away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, obviously, but thanks for like slapping us in the face with it. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you've been alluding to this the whole way along, and you're like, no, really, this is Rachel's ghost. It's a deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
So-
been guiding you this whole
She's been
way.
guiding you this whole way.
Like, I get it, guys.
And then it's not Nathan who stops you and shoots Chloe.
It's not. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I was shocked because Chloe was because you don't actually see until the very end, and then so
I thought you. Like, I'm like, maybe you're already drugged and you're just hallucinating.
yeah, because it's revealed that your teacher is the killer,
Yep.
and
Which I'm
Mark
sure
Jefferson-
everybody who's watching knows or doesn't care to know.
Yeah. So
Doesn't care if they find out.
whenever I first saw that scene, I was like completely shocked that Nathan shot Chloe because she's like, oh shit. And then because Chloe, Max gets drugged and she's like, oh, and you can't really see who it is.
And yeah,
And then she tries to she has a gun in my first playthrough and she pulled the gun and
In
all of a
mine
sudden Nathan shoots Chloe and obviously kills her. And I'm like, what? No, not again. And because
Yeah,
you can't, I'm like,
not again.
rewind, and it doesn't work. You see
No.
the low, nope, can't do it. And all of a sudden, Mark's face is above you. I'm like, wait, what? Credits. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it was another one of those. Well, fuck, I've got to load up the next one because I can't not know what happens.
Yeah, I remember the first time I played that game. It was like really late, probably like
Oh, it was really late when I
one
played this too.
1 in the morning, and I was like, I have to play through it
Yeah,
now, and I
I
just
couldn't not.
powered through it. Yeah, yeah, and that's the end of episode 4.
Yeah, which
So
gets us into the most ridiculous one.
yeah, yeah. All right, so that brings us to the last episode, episode 5, Polarized,
Yep.
where you start off in the dark room.
Yeah.
Marcus just basically drugged you, shot Chloe in the chest, and you wake up, and he's now using you as a subject.
Yeah, it was so creepy.
Yeah, this was really disturbing to me because it's something that I could like. I, I could only imagine this being something that has potentially happened, or
I'm sure it has.
and it's
It's
just like it's the way he describes like the reason why he's doing it and his justification of like capturing that moment, because the game has taught you about a little bit about photography
yeah.
and like capturing the moment, stuff like that, which is like really photography are moments. And he explains that like he wants to capture that docile like innocence, and then the instant realization of fear immediately afterwards. And that's what his like his gimmick is, and that made my skin crawl. It was just like, whoa. And it's
Yeah.
really weird because like even Max mentions like he could have anybody pose for him because he's so famous.
Mhm.
And and especially in this world, which there's a reference to Mark Jefferson actually in Captain Spirit. His mom is an artist, and there's a book that you can find, and it's one of Mark Jefferson's books.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was like written in the mid '90s or something. And yeah, and so you learn about his motives, and Max even thinks like he could have anybody pose for him, but like that's not what he wants. He wants like this complete like un like he's unapologetic about getting basically like complete innocence into this and stuff like that, and everything, and he's done it
Yes.
multiple times,
It
and
was
you
an
see
incredibly uncomfortable part to play.
yeah, yeah, and all those binders, and you really only like learn of like the 4 of them really, because there's one with Rachel,
Yep. Kate.
there's Kate, which that bothered me a lot because as you learn throughout the game that like she was also a victim of this, that made like the whole like suicide thing whenever I first played it like even worse,
Yeah.
especially in the later scene where if you let her like where if she dies, then like she comes to you basically and says like, why did you let me die, and everything, and it's just like it builds on itself very very well,
Yeah.
and you're just duct taped to the chair and you have to basically escape. And yeah, it was a very well done scene.
It was. I mean, it was really uncomfortable to play, but
Hmm.
I think they handled it as best as they could
Right.
for the subject matter.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's interesting because
yeah.
the whole entire port, as we mentioned, they're shoehorning Nathan, and yet Nathan killed Rachel. He overdosed her,
Yep.
and he's totally part of it because he's helping Mark, so he's an accomplice.
Yeah.
And he has his own reasons for doing this, and like there's justification of like, well, like sure, like he's not necessarily in a great mindset and stuff like that, but like
Yeah, and he had like major like family issues.
yes,
Like his dad's a total
very
ass.
psychological issues and
Yeah.
father
And like
issues,
and
family
obviously
issues.
he has his own mental health issues
Yeah.
that his family's just not willing to work with.
So you can
Like
kind of like
his mother is,
yeah,
because there's a lot of stuff there
right.
to kind of back that up, but his father's just totally shutting it down. Like
Yeah.
he's like, no, this guy has to be perfect because
Hmm.
he's got to take over for me
Yeah.
when that time comes.
Yeah. And that's really like um the the big like realization, and kind of puts all the puzzles of the pieces of the puzzle in a line together. You basically trick Mark into giving you your diary uh, to be able to finally go back to your original selfie photo.
Yep.
And you go back to episode 1 scene,
Yeah.
and
Back
again,
again.
back again. And you're back there, and my favorite part about that is you know everything, and you can just like quip talk them and just be like, of course, like,
Yeah, you can be extra snarky to him.
yeah,
It was real good.
yeah, you monster. But what was equally disturbing about that scene and was whenever the birds hit and become all
Just the
bloody.
blood,
Yeah, and I
and
was
it
just
just
like,
like plasters the window, and then like reality starts breaking down
mm-hmm.
because then you go out of the classroom and people are moving backwards.
Yeah, and one of that's in the dream sequence actually,
Is that in the dream
because in
sequence?
the
Okay.
pictures she actually can't exit the frame, so she can only be within the frame of um the of back. Like whenever she goes back to the part where William walks out, she can't leave the house. She's in the frame of that area,
That's true,
right?
yeah, and
She
everything's
can't
kind of
leave the.
fuzzy
If you
around the
actually walk
outside.
to the door of that classroom, she actually says, "No, I can't leave the frame."
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of try and like fix and alter reality there, and you hand in your photo,
Yep.
and which is a really great photo, by the way. I thought it was clever. Selfies on the wall, and then selfie of or portrait of you looking at all the selfies.
Yeah.
This is very Max and very clever. And so you finally hand in and you win the Everyday Heroes contest, and you go to the gallery
Which
and.
which after looking at the other images,
Mhm.
I was like, I'm like, nobody handed in something better than Max's. Like, don't get me wrong, I liked Max's picture.
Yeah.
I did like it, but looking at everything else that was around,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm sure somebody else had some like I would be curious to see what the other pictures were. Other than Victoria's, because you do see Victoria's.
Yep, you do see Victoria's.
And hers was really good.
Mhm.
So it's like
Each student, other than the few art students that aren't just they're just in the photography class, not necessarily good at
yeah.
photography, they'll have very good like framing and in photos. So it's I don't know other than her being complete center in the photo, I thought it was pretty well like focused and
Yeah,
framed.
I don't know.
Good bokeh.
I just either way.
Hmm.
And then yeah, you get the whole art show, and
Yeah.
then you realize that it doesn't matter because
Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
the town still gets fucked up anyways.
Yeah, she's finally like, yeah, everything's fine. And then you get a call from Chloe, and then all of a sudden it's like, everybody's dying, I'm dying. And it's like, oh no, I've got to go back in time again. Fix it
And back
again.
again.
And back again.
And back again.
Yeah. And then so you finally go all the way back, and then you kind of recorrect everything to go back to the normal place, but Chloe's not dead. And then it's like, okay, well, um, yeah, that was kind of it kind of like gave you that moment of like everything is fine,
Yeah.
and
And then it
then
just like rips it away. It's like,
rips
well,
that entire thing away because it doesn't seem to matter what happens. The storm still comes.
yep.
Yeah, yeah. In the diner, what did you end up doing in the diner? Did you tell Frank about Rachel?
Yep. Yeah, I told Frank, and we were pretty cool
Mm-hmm.
after that dialogue. I redeemed David to
Cool.
Joyce.
Yep.
Um,
So did I. I did both of those.
also, did you let David kill Mark?
So no, I actually uh in the original playthrough that I played, he apprehended Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
same. I mean, I think I let
I
him
did go
I let
through it
him
a few
shoot
times.
once
Oh, I
just because I wanted to see him get shot.
the first
But
time I played through it, I don't think I realized because David kept on dying and I kept
oh,
on going through
okay,
different permutations and finally he actually in the first playthrough he actually finally apprehended him
yeah,
by me like getting the chords and stuff like that. And yeah, and that's what happened in my first playthrough. Yeah.
yeah. Because if you tell David that Chloe's dead, he'll just shoot Mark.
Right. Yeah.
And I watched it
Mhm.
because it was you feel good about it, but then you're
Yeah.
like, someone has to live with this for the rest of their video game life, so I'm gonna rewind that and just she's okay somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I did I in the in the restaurant, I redeemed David.
Hmm.
Uh, I gave Warren a hug because
That's what I did too.
because we're pals.
Hmm. Friend
Um,
zoned.
and yeah, I jumped back to where I needed to go.
Yeah. What I found really interesting about the end of this episode with David was that the whole entire redemption arc of him,
Yeah,
and you can tell him whether or not Chloe is alive or dead. And if you do or don't, he's very emotional because of it.
yeah,
He's like, he says like something to the effect of like, the one time I'm glad she's a stoner. If you say that she went away to
to
basically
get
clear
high.
clear
Yeah.
her head and get high, and he gets really really upset if Chloe dies, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
whenever you
Well, then he
realize,
shoots Mark.
yeah. And he he's very humanized in that point where it's like, yes, he has the PTSD and he's done the wrong things, but then you start to realize like he's actually not that bad. And that's what I really love about this character,
Yeah.
because it actually does fully develop and evolve the character and evolve everybody else with him and his interactions with him, no matter how you choose to interact with him.
It's kind of funny because we talked about David a few times throughout the game,
Yeah.
and I always felt bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I I do know some people who have been in the military and who have been in really bad situations,
Yeah.
and um, that there's a it's like there's like a switch that gets flicked when
Mm-hmm.
you get put into that situation, and it's not something that you can just come back to normal life and turn it off.
Yeah.
It's like once it's on,
Mm-hmm.
that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And it takes effort to work yourself back into normal civilian life. I mean, I can't speak from experience. I just
Mm-hmm.
can say from the interactions that I've had,
Yeah.
and it's like even little things like getting spooked, like, you know, jumping out at somebody
Mm-hmm.
and giving them a scare. I mean, you don't do that to somebody with PTSD because
No.
they'll take your head off.
Yeah.
And it's not you, it's their training,
Yeah.
their experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt for him because he wants to have a normal life,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the experiences that he's had,
It's very hard for him.
it's extremely hard,
Yeah.
and he's doing the best that he can, and sure, he's making some poor decisions,
Yeah.
and by all means, you got to let people know that, yeah, this isn't what normal people do,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt he really got shit on, and
Yeah.
then seeing it kind of full circle,
Mm-hmm.
and him being, well, redeemed
Yes.
at the end,
He has his redemption arc.
I'm like, no matter what you think of David throughout the game,
Yep.
that the way they pull that character together at the end,
Yeah.
you'll understand him.
Yeah.
You'll
And
have a much better understanding, and you'll get that what he wants is the best
yeah.
for his family.
And whenever I first played through the game, I kind of looked at the character through the eyes of an improper substitute for a father figure.
Yeah.
Because I never really had a father figure whenever I grew up. Because there wasn't one. So, kind of getting a little personal there. But yeah, so that's how I played that through that. So like I was kind of very mean to him.
Yeah.
And whenever I played through Before the Storm for the first time, where you're younger, and I won't spoil anything for you in case you decide to play this game, because it is worth just as much playing that game as this game. There's more interaction because it's with David and Chloe,
Yeah.
because it's their initial first impression of each other, and you can play that either way as well. And I thought that was very very interesting, and I was able to play that game similarly to the way that I played through Life is Strange the first time I beat it. Through it, and then actually like kind of see that whole entire like the first time that they met, and then decided to get married and stuff like that
Hmm.
and whatnot. And yeah, so yeah, David ended up being probably not my favorite character, but definitely one of the most memorable characters, I think,
Oh, absolutely.
because of how they handled that,
They
and
did
I
some
thought it was really
amazing
really
work with that.
cool. Hmm. After you do that, you finally glitch out and are at the bottom of the lighthouse.
Yep.
Like I said, we are skipping a lot of stuff, but we're not going to say everything about the
That's
game.
true,
But
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the dream sequence or the nightmare sequence, as I think some people refer it to. You're climbing up and you kind of pass out, and Chloe carries you up to the top of the lighthouse. And while that's happening, you're kind of like in some sub reality where you're kind of like going over everything that's happened.
Yeah, you like hit on every single thing, and then you hit the worst part in the entire game, the dumb fucking stealth section.
Okay.
Uh,
I didn't find that hard at all because you just kept on rewinding.
no, yeah, like you just, but it was just so like, I'm like, this is stupid. Like I liked, so
I like the
we're
voice
we're gonna
interactions with
dial it
that.
back a little bit.
Yeah.
I liked the stealth section
Mm-hmm.
in episode 3
Okay.
when you have to hide from security.
Yep.
That was dope
Yep.
because I hid in a bathroom stall
Mm-hmm.
and like she was like pressed up again. Like
Yeah.
it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, big fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that had purpose.
Yep.
To me, this was just
The
like
purpose of this scene, if I were to argue against what you're saying, I did agree that it was kind of tedious and sort of dumb, but the purpose of it is what those people are saying to you.
yeah,
That's the purpose of it. And they needed you to slow down, and I think that's the best way that they found to slow you down.
it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's
It
all the
worked.
different various scenes, and then finally you get to like the last stretch where you're like finally going back, and the first. I think it's effective because the first section of it basically tries to like get you on the you've been doing the wrong thing bandwagon,
Yeah.
and then the last section of it, whenever you're going through the uh through this remembrances of what you've done with Chloe and some of the highlights with that, it's kind of telling you you can interpret this in different ways, but I felt it was kind of telling you like you might be doing the right thing, not assertively telling you you've been doing the right thing, but kind of like this is why you've been doing what you've been doing. And it had those two sections that were sort of like just juxtaposed, and it kind of just made you just like sort of stop and rethink through the whole entire thing. So I feel the scenes were important.
It was, I mean, yeah, it was essentially a recap of everything you've done in that game up until this point, and
Mm-hmm.
then stealth section, and then okay, back to the game.
Mm-hmm. And then finally you snap out of it once you finally get through the second half of that section where it's just walking and you're doing the remembrance of the stuff you've done with Chloe, and then finally you wake up, and then Chloe gives you a big monologue about she's not certain of whether or not this is okay, but she really wants to be with you. This has been the best times of her life and stuff like that. And then you're
Yep.
kind of agreeing with her, and one thing leads to another, and boom, Bay or Bay. Was that a hard decision for you, Ian?
You know what? I mean, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I sat like I messaged you right away. I think I
Yeah.
called you an asshole. Um, and said that I wasn't comfortable making that decision. And then the more I thought about it,
Right.
I'm just like, it's not that hard of a decision
Yeah.
for me. I mean,
Because what I found interesting about this decision is it's finalized. You do it, you can't hit the rewind button. You
no,
can't play it through and then go, oh, let's find out what the other ending is.
nope. You get
Yeah.
one choice.
Yeah. So you decide, let's save Chloe, or let's save Arcadia Bay and let Chloe die after everything you've done. What did you choose?
I saved Arcadia Bay.
Okay.
Uh,
I saved Chloe. I have always saved Chloe. I don't understand. I get the people who've made the decision of Arcadia Bay, but I think there's strong why did you choose Arcadia Bay?
uh,
There's strong arguments on both sides. There is really no wrong answer. I
no,
think both of them are wrong answers, but anyway.
yeah, there's no right. Well, okay, I'll disagree slightly. I believe there is a right answer
Okay.
because ultimately, I mean, what I learned from this is that you cannot fuck with time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like
Arguably, you still are though. She doesn't lose her power by going back and not using it to save Chloe. She still has it, and she's already used it, so technically it could still happen.
Does she still have it though? I thought she gets it from the butterfly.
She doesn't. That's just a metaphor to the butterfly effect.
I mean, I guess so, but uh, yeah,
She just
it's
goes back and chooses not to use it,
well, okay,
right?
yeah, and then never use it again because it will
Maybe,
only fucking destroy things.
maybe.
Well, no, we know that it will destroy things because she like
But arguably, whenever she won the Everyday Heroes Award and she finally used it one last time to go back, and then everything was fine, bad things still happened because she still had used her powers within all those alternate realities.
yes.
So why wouldn't bad things still happen in this alternate reality?
Well, this is like back to the start.
Yeah.
This is back before
So
she's ever
was
used it.
every other one,
Well,
right? She
because she's
went back and then she moved keys and then didn't do anything else, and then arguably time just kept on went on. Her brain rewrote herself, and then she even mentions in one episode, I think episode 5, I'm not going to be able to remember what this is, so retell this to me later. So
yes,
obviously there's some sort of ideology of that, and then so she goes back, and then in the instance where Chloe got hit in the car crash, bad things still happened, even though the only thing that she had done was kind of reset the whole entire thing from even beforehand, and bad things still happened.
well,
So I think bad things still would happen
I
in,
mean,
and really
okay,
there's no right or wrong answer because we don't know. And
that's
I don't
true.
think the developers are ever going to answer this
And
question.
what ultimately what it came down to for me was um like that was what she wanted. You know?
Who? Chloe? That's what
Yeah.
Chloe wanted?
Yeah.
To die?
Yeah.
Okay.
She said that was the only way to save the bay. And that's arguably yeah, you're it's that it's just a thought experiment,
It is. It's
right?
a trolley
Do you
problem.
yeah, do you save
It's a
one
very, the
person
game is a
or do
very
you
complex
save
nested
five
trolley
people?
problem.
And
But
most people are going to pick the five people over the one unless they have to be the one to pull the lever, then they're going to let whatever happens happens.
but the whole point of this game is that it is that, but
Yeah, but
that
you
you're
have to
talking at the
pull the
base level, but the problem is that you actually have context as to every situation and person and emotion behind the choice, not just five people or one person.
And the thing
Because you
is,
start throwing in like the one person's your uncle, right? Are you gonna now only kill the one person?
yeah,
The one person's
exactly.
your parent,
And
or
in
like the five
I feel
people
like
are your
in
best
to
friends.
me it
One's
was
a serial killer, right? Like
if
they're all serial killers, or whatever. One's the president or something. Like you can, it's throwing in those complex
yeah, oh, absolutely.
uh, decisions behind you. Yeah,
And to me going back
right.
to the start
Mm-hmm.
and not doing anything means that I remember all of that stuff happened,
Yep.
but nobody else does.
Sure.
So
In that alternate reality, continue.
ex- in the correct timeline,
You don't know it's the correct timeline.
I know that's okay. I'm the only one that knows that that's of everything else that's happened.
Yeah. Because in the
Nothing,
diner in the nightmare, you actually see an alternate timeline, Max,
nothing
and she
else,
accuses you of doing bad
nothing else
things.
has had to die or suffer because of me,
Mm-hmm.
other than Chloe. But that's not because of me.
Hmm.
So in in chapter 1,
Yeah.
Nathan shoots Chloe.
Yes.
You just happen to be in the same bathroom
Correct.
and you happen to stop it
Yep.
by using your
Time ability.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use your time ability, Nathan kills Chloe.
Yes.
You're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you had the ability to stop it,
Yep.
but you didn't.
Right. Okay.
So it's yeah. Nothing
So you're arguing,
Nothing else is having to die and suffer because of me.
okay.
Whereas if you save Chloe,
Hmm.
that entire town is arguably going to die.
Arguably, David will survive because he's in a bunker.
True. Maybe he might have
Some
left.
Sure, but only really people directly in the line of the tornado will die. Some people you can get the like homeless lady to leave, for example.
Which I did.
You can like warn some of the people, one person to go and get a job or whatever. I'm assuming they probably left town to go
But
get a
like
job. Not,
Warren's probably gonna be dead.
yeah, for
Joyce is
sure.
probably
Joyce is
gonna be dead.
dying. Like
Yeah.
everybody in that
Everybody in
diner
that
is gonna
diner is
die.
probably gonna die.
Everybody
That truck
downtown,
driver that I just saved, dead.
yeah. Arguably, a lot of people are gonna die. That's for sure. The
Yeah,
five people are gonna die, and the one person's not, so to speak, in the trolley program or
exactly.
problem. Yeah.
And yeah, like these are other people. Like, yes, you work really hard a lot of times to
Mm-hmm.
save Chloe.
Yep.
You do.
See, I totally get your thing, but so people understand my reasons for saving Chloe, I don't understand why I went through that entire process of constantly saving Chloe again and again and again. Because if you were going to let her die, why not let her die in the timeline where you're the most happy, which is where you won the Everyday Heroes Award?
Oh,
I guess other people would have died too,
yes.
but it's like you literally did next to nothing and people ended up dying there too, right? So it's like if I don't know. It like I was almost
You also did all that damage to the natural world though. Like all those animals died.
yes.
Like those whales
But that's my whole point. We
beached
don't
themselves.
we
The
don't know whether or not. You can assume not and you can assume yes, or you can come up with some other outlandish theory or non-outlandish, very logically thought out theory, but you don't know whether or not since time manipulation has happened, irregardless of like it being reset or not, if that kind of stuff isn't still going to happen because time manipulation has still happened. They've never explained that,
I guess that's true.
right? So, anyway, I was kind of insulted by the question. I immediately clicked. I probably was like flabbergasted for a good like 30 seconds and immediately clicked save Chloe because I felt that I went through all of this emotional bullshit to save her, and that was the whole purpose of the game. Why would I bother to have done that and not have stopped myself many times before? So if I was at the point, I felt I was at the point of no return, and I will agree. Both of the endings are written well. The ending where you save Arcadia Bay and Chloe dies is written better,
Oh my god.
mainly because of the song. Um, that's
And
my.
everything about it. Like I I felt I felt so off. Like I
Hmm.
felt like garbage. I even messaged JC the next morning and I'm like I was sitting at work and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I
man,
sent you the other
I feel
ending.
so shitty right now. And then he sent me the other ending. I watched it and I'm like,
I think it's just
I
as
feel so
effective
much
though,
better right now. I'm
and
so much happier with my choice because the
I think a
ending,
lot of people who play through and choose an ending feel that way either way,
I mean, I
unless they're
guess
very
so
neutral about the game.
because
But
I was definitely happy with my
yeah,
choice. Like it had
like for me,
that
I
ending
was
had a punch to it
yeah,
and
yeah,
it had emotional impact. Whereas watching the Save Chloe ending,
yeah,
it was a little flat. Now, granted, it's like you said, if I picked that ending and that's what I saw first,
yeah.
I would have been like, yeah,
See, for me, I was um with the end Chloe save Chloe ending. If to me it was very somber, and I wasn't fully satisfied with the ending. I will admit that. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be satisfied with either ending. And
eh,
whenever they get into the truck and they just like drive downtown and then drive away, I was like, okay, this is a very somber ending. I get it. Like life moves on. This really sucks. And I was like, I was just starting to imagine what happens with them in the future. And with the other ending, it was just like the ending made me cry. It was just like it was very upsetting, and I was just like, holy cow! And why? I had watched it whenever I watched it for the first time, and I was just like yeah, this is the main reason why I chose my ending. That's the main reason why Ian chose his ending. I found it very interesting that we chose different endings. I was
Yep.
totally, because I was the most curious thing about this game. I was really curious about your choices, which is why we went through them, but most curious about what your ending would be. And I honestly, I didn't know. I had no idea what ending you were going to choose. I
What I
literally was like 50-50.
what I really enjoyed was that it shows you like global stats,
Mm-hmm.
but it also shows you your friend list stats.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit more of an intimate feel to it.
Yeah.
Like sure, the global stats on this are
Mm-hmm.
like almost half and half.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're so incredibly close.
Yeah.
But looking at my friends list, I
Yeah.
was like I was in the minority of people that picked the
Mm-hmm.
Bay.
Yeah.
Most of the people now I'm granted it was probably like you and
A couple other people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many people on my PSN friends list played this,
Yeah.
but apparently I'm one of few that decided to save everybody
Mm-hmm.
instead of just Chloe.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, are you
It
glad you played it?
it's for sure in my like top 10 at this point.
I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was
I'm really
amazing.
glad.
Um
Do you think you would play through it again to see the other endings, or like watch let's play of other like
no.
playthroughs and stuff like that?
No.
This is your
Top 10 for sure, but I'll probably never touch it again cuz it's too fucking emotional.
yeah.
And I don't
It is
it's
if
so
you're in a
emotional and stressful.
mm-hmm,
I don't want to deal with it again.
mm-hmm,
I loved it. I will tell other people to play it in a heartbeat.
right.
Um, maybe because I'm a bad person and I like to watch people suffer. But yeah, to me,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm good. I got my experience. Um, I was totally bummed out by my ending,
Mm-hmm.
but then when I saw the other one, I was so incredibly happy with my ending.
Yeah, and I don't think either of the endings
No,
are
no
good.
ending
Like
is
they're good
it
endings,
doesn't
but
have a good
yeah,
ending.
it doesn't have a happy
There's
ending.
it's not everyone riding off into the sunset
Yay.
and living happily ever
Yeah,
after.
that
But
ending gets messed up.
I my ending had a punch to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I already mentioned that, but it had real emotional impact,
Yeah,
whereas the other one was just kind of like maybe
yeah,
a bunch of people died, but you guys are together.
yeah.
And that's I feel like that's a horrible way to start off a relationship.
It's already started.
I mean, you're still in the early phases. You guys have been together for like not even a week,
Yeah, that's true.
and you destroy your entire town together, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Love at first sight, I guess, depending on
Ugh,
your canon.
that could cause some struggles later on. But no, I would recommend this to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely anybody.
Cool, cool. So I will finish off by saying I'm really glad you played it, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
I'm glad you made me play it.
I'm glad you got me to play Silent Hill 2. I really did enjoy that game.
I'm glad you had fun.
Think I'll probably borrow and pick up another one. If you did like this game and you're more interested in some of Chloe's background and who the heck Rachel Amber is, we didn't really talk a lot about Rachel Amber.
I guess that's true.
The
I
before,
probably will play Before the Storm at some point,
yeah,
but I need some time
I would give
to
it some time.
recover emotionally from what you made me go through.
Before the Storm, in my opinion, is just as good and has really good dialogue and interactions.
Yeah, I
And,
don't think I'm going to play anything that has dialogue or interactions for at least a couple
go
of weeks.
shoot 'em up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Play some League. Play something that has no no discussion between anybody.
Fair enough.
Maybe more Ace Combat.
Yep.
Convoluted story that even I don't understand. Maybe some Metal Gear. Just yeah.
Some straight up bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Staying away from this.
Yeah. So brings us to you guys. So if you guys have played Silent Hill 2 or Life is Strange or seen the Silent Hill movie, let us know your thoughts about it.
Yeah.
Did you like the game? What was your ending with either of those games?
Did you kill Chloe?
Yeah, did you kill Chloe?
Did you kill everybody else?
Did you kill everybody else? Were you hoping for an ending that everybody died?
Do you feel good about what happened?
Yeah, you probably don't.
Probably not.
Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to help us out. Give the video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe for new content. Much like this, we do a podcast that comes out once weekly on Wednesdays, and we
Wednesdays.
throw out some news episodes as
When
news
it
comes out.
matters.
Yeah, when it matters, as we
When it matters to us. There's news
yeah.
coming out all the time, but
Yeah, we're not covering everything.
no, we're not. We're not ace news hounds.
Yeah.
Not yet.
And yeah, and be sure if you know anybody who you think would like this content, then share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass it on.
See you next week.
Can't wait until we do this again. I can ask you all the questions about Monkey Island.
Yep.
Who is your favorite pirate?